just remember thinking, like, all this bullshit ends if I run this thing into a tree at 120 miles an hour. It just all ends. Like, all this pain, all this crap I've been dealing with all these years after being out of the military, all the setbacks, all these feelings of not belonging, all these feelings of not fitting in, this loss of, it all ends if I end it.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dan.
And I'm Roger.
Welcome to Tracer Burnout. Raj?
Yeah.
Our guest today is one of the first people whose show we went on.
True.
And it has taken a while to make this happen. We've stayed in contact, of course, the way we do with virtually all of our guests and our acquaintances that we've made through the show. But we're very fortunate that he has been able to take time out of his busy schedule make this happen for us.
We were a charity case when he brought us on his show.
He was very willing.
He was indeed.
He's always very willing to help. Ladies and gentlemen, Army veteran, Mr. Adam Peters. Adam.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you going so far out of your way to join us here, actually in the studio versus virtual. This is great.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, man. Not out of the way, man. Like, I'm really excited to be here. This will be my second live, like, in-person appearance, and these are always so much more fun.
We think so. We prefer the in-person, but because, I mean, and you know that because of, veterans and service members wind up everywhere, you have to have the virtual capability. But the in-person ones are always better.
So much better.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
He actually looks like he means it.
Yeah.
I really am.
I can't believe it.
Really am excited.
Yeah. Awesome. So, we'll get this started the same way we always do. Does your family have a history of service?
So, best I can tell, yeah, of course. It skipped a generation. So, my grandfather was in World War II. He was a medic. I don't really know a whole lot about his service just because he died when I was very young. And then my uncle on my mom's side was in Vietnam twice as an 11 Charlie, so he's a mortar guy. And he's not a nice man. I don't have a relationship with him to this day because he told me I was making the biggest mistake of my life and joining the Army. And basically called me every name in the book and told me I wasn't going to amount to shit. Sorry. And so I don't talk. I think he just didn't deal with it, man. I really think that's what it comes down to, and probably wanted me to avoid some of the same stuff that I'm fighting to help our brothers and sisters overcome now. Just didn't know how to do it in a decent way, I guess, to a 17-year-old kid.
I don't know if the previous generations had the resources at their disposal that we do now. People like yourself.
For sure, they didn't have them. Man, I talked to a lot of Vietnam vets, and it's the same. I mean, they got spit on when they came home, for crying out loud, called baby killers, and it's like, man, you just signed a contract to go do something for your country. Like, you just followed orders, right? Like we all did sitting here, and I think, they back then they called it shell shock. They didn't even call it PTSD, right? So
It's had a long way. It's had a lot of names over the centuries.
Yeah.
So what led you to join the service?
I wanted out of small town Indiana. I mean, it's nothing more simple than that. I was bullied a lot as a kid. I never really fit in. We didn't own a farm, and southern Indiana is all farm town.
Right.
So the industries there are all family owned, multiple generations. So either you work at the gas station in town, or you work on somebody else's farm, or you work for somebody's construction company. And I grew up in a German Catholic, Poseyville, Indiana, St. Wendell area. It's all German Catholic, very staunch German Catholic. It's just not, I don't know, it's home, if you will, but there's nothing there for me. I knew the world was a much bigger place, and I wanted to go see it. The irony is that I would be in for 13 years, and I would only have 2 duty stations, and I would only see Iraq and Afghanistan, which is kind of...
The Army has a way of sending its service members to the finest of locations.
The finest, I'm telling you, especially if you're an infantry guy, right?
Amen.
The worst places on the planet is where we're going, period. And So yeah, I did. That's how they got me. The recruiter got me 3 hots and a cots, and you're gonna move every 2 or 3 years. 2 years if you're single, and 3 years if you're married. And I was like, sign me up for that. I mean, it's no secret to you guys that I enjoy travel because here I am on a whim, in North Carolina, 9 hours away from home, to just come record a podcast, which I think is awesome.
Yeah. What year was it that you enlisted?
So I enlisted in 2002, but I didn't ship to basic training until I graduated in 2003. And funny story, Alex Burkle is my biggest influence, and he is a bigwig enlisted guy with the Space Force right now, holds one of those super Sergeant Major titles.
Space Force is not real.
Dan is convinced it's a psyop.
Yeah,
it's definitely not a psyop. It actually makes a lot of sense.
It's what they would say if it were a psyop.
Yeah, it's always, and whenever we mention this about the Space Force, it's always somebody knows a guy that's in the Space Force, or knows a guy who knows a guy, or somebody's wife's second cousin is in the Space Force.
It's never like, somebody from the Space Force.
Yeah, it's like come on. I mean, you're not fooling anybody. I saw the Netflix show.
But what I tried to do was I saw Alex. He went to basic training the summer between his junior and senior year, and he came back. We wrestled together all 4 years of high school, and I just saw how much different of a person he was. How it's funny, wrestling season, everybody always gets sick in the middle of like the holiday tournament, right? So you just have to fight through that. Every single wrestler
helps you make weight, though.
That's it, right? And I remember Alex particularly would get super sick for this one, I forget what tournament it was called, every year. And I just remember seeing how he handled that his junior year to his senior year, and I was like, I want to do that. I want to go get whatever he got at basic training. And so I joined on July 2nd of 2002 at 17. I'll never forget it because I had to call my mom to get a copy of my birth certificate. And she said, what do you need the birth certificate for? I said, because I'm joining the Army. She's like, you can't do that. You're not 18. I said, Dad's signing the paperwork, so it doesn't matter.
It's funny you should mention that.
Yeah. So if I had gone on the first, I actually would have been able to ship and do that. And I think it's convoluted. I don't know how it actually worked. I think basically your reserves until you graduate high school, and then you go active duty to your first duty station or whatever. So anyway, I spent a year on delayed entry and shipped. My BASD is June 24th, 2003.
So just the curiosity of the timing, I mean, you would have joined not long after 9/11. So kind of how did that loom in your mind?
Man, you're asking me to go back 22 years. I mean, I was like everybody else. I'm a farm boy from Indiana, so I had a lot of pride in our country, and I wanted to go get my piece of whatever that was, So I remember September 11th, football practice was canceled. We did no schoolwork. They wheeled in the TVs, the old tube TVs on the carts into the classroom.
Bolted down to the cart from the AV club.
I can even remember. I remember I've always been pretty independent as a kid and even as an adult. So I got myself up for school in the morning. I lived in the basement of my house. I lived with my dad, my stepmom, and my grandmother. They all three put their money together and built a house because my grandmother died in her 90s. And she had her own room and a sitting room and her own bathroom, and my bathroom wasn't finished downstairs, so I'd come upstairs to take a shower before school in the morning, and she was already up in her sitting room, and she's like, Adam, you need to see this. This is what's on the TV. And about that time, I walk in, and I see the first plane hit the tower, and I was like, this can't be real. Like, it's like 7 a.m. Central Time or whatever it was, and I was like, man, is this real? Like, so I didn't think anything of it, and I get in the shower, and I come out of the shower, and I'm dressed and getting my stuff together to go to school, and about that time, the second plane hits, and I was like, okay, so, like, what's going on? We didn't really, did we have cell phones back then?
Yes. Not smartphones.
Not everybody had one either, probably.
No,
correct. Right? So
you had to get the plan that was usually multiple years long. It was very expensive. You had to pay by the text.
I had an Ericsson that had the little flip down, but it wasn't a true flip phone.
Yeah.
Well, and media was also very different back then too. Yeah. So like I think it was like real journalism. Like they were just saying like we still don't know what's going on. I think it was hours later before Bin Laden or whomever took credit for it. And of course now there's a whole conspiracy behind 9/11 and all of that.
The truthers.
I've never been down that rabbit hole. I kind of refuse.
It's silly.
Yeah. So yeah, that's. I think I was already thinking about the military before that happened because I knew I wanted out of small town Indiana. Like I didn't like school. I'm not a bookworm. I do enjoy reading. I really enjoy reading military thriller fiction. That's really pretty much what I mean. Then business stuff, obviously now is what I read. But I don't know. I just wanted out, I think. And so I had been thinking about it, like, what's the easiest way out? I didn't have the grades for college or the money to go to college. Plus, what was I going to do in college?
Yeah.
I got out of the Army at 30 years old and still didn't know what I wanted to go to college for, and it's getting paid for. So for me, it was an adventure. It was like, I'm an athlete. I can probably do well at basic. In fact, I remember going to basic training and thinking, like, this is kind of a joke. This is pretty easy. Like
if you're fit and you're mentally prepared.
Yeah. I don't know that I was mentally prepared, because how do you mentally prepare yourself for an experience?
I just mean you're not soft.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, 2 days in August in southern Indiana for football, and, then an entire wrestling season.
That'll do it.
I was ready, right? So I did. I thought basic training was a bit of a joke, but I just wanted out, man, and to go have adventure, and I'm so glad I did.
Dan and I have had multiple guests come on the show and say, I wanted to join X service, but I went to the recruiter and they were at lunch or they were in their office playing Candy Crush. And so I walked next door to the other recruiter and changed my life forever. Was the Army your first pick?
It was not. And this won't come as a surprise. I wanted to be an aviator. I've wanted to fly. Man, I tell this story all the time on my own show, but National Geographic, when I was growing up, had these little trifolds that you put in a 3-ring binder of animals and all our nation's, aviation, military equipment, the ground equipment, all of that. I had every single one of those airplanes lined through my wall. My earliest childhood memory of aviation was that same uncle I told you I don't have a relationship with now. Actually, the one thing I remember cool that he did for us was the B-17 came to Evansville Regional Airport, and he actually paid for me and my brother to take a ride-along flight. I got to ride in the belly bubble of a B-17.
Flying Fortress.
Yeah, man. That's my favorite airplane to this day. Yeah. It is a life goal of mine, because I am a pilot now, to fly one. And there's only 8 flying in the world anymore. So, so I actually... In my high school, the recruiters would all come and set up tables in the foyer at lunch. And I didn't eat school lunch, mainly because it was always wrestling season or something, and I'm cutting weight, and I can't eat or whatever. So I just spent my time in the foyer doing homework or whatever. And I went and talked to the Navy first, and they literally laughed me out of the room. They're like, nah, not a shot. You're not going to fly for us. And they wouldn't even tell me why. I didn't know anything about the vision standards, right? So I go talk to the Air Force, and I'm like, the Air Force flies airplanes too. Let's go talk to them.
Last I heard.
Yeah. And they, and I know you said no profanity, but he told me to f off. He's like, your eyes are... You wear glasses. You're never going to be a military pilot, ever. And I was like, okay, cool. So at the time, I had a cousin who, he did the ROTC thing. I think he went to West Point. He went and became a Ranger, and he just kind of influenced me to join. So I actually joined as an 11 X-ray Airborne Ranger. And that's a funny story, because back then when I joined, recruiters got bonus points, or however it worked, for putting... They had a buddy program at the time. You guys sound familiar with it. I didn't know anything about it, but essentially my contract became null and void because my buddy didn't ship. So everything that I wanted was contingent upon this other kid whom I didn't know going to basic training. So I missed my shot to volunteer at basic training for going to RIP and trying to get to Ranger Battalion, and ended up, I didn't even have a duty station on graduation day. I had 2 choices. I could stay as permanent party with the drill sergeants until they could get me what I was actually, joining for, or they could just get me the first duty station of whomever branch would send me to.
Needs of the Army.
Yeah, well, so this is my logic as a barely 18-year-old kid who just watched the permanent party guy get treated like absolute dog crap the entire cycle that I was at basic training. I was like, if I stay here, my life is going to suck. They're going to use me. They're going to abuse me. They're going to treat me like less than human. Like, it's just going to be more basic training.
Is that
all
true,
over
Dan?
again.
The former drill sergeant.
We didn't really have too many holdovers like that.
Fair enough.
We had a couple of medical ones, but not for any length or duration like that. No.
Yeah. So
I do have a funny story, or not funny. It's tragic, but I do have a story that I'll tell you off camera about something like that.
Yeah. So my senior drill sergeant Holly, I'll never forget him. He just came to me and he's like, "Hey man, like best I can do for you is Fort Stewart. 1st Battalion's right up the road. Like you can get there, and you can get with your leadership and go screen to go to RIP and whatever the whole process is." And I was like, "What's my other choice?" He's like, "Stay here with us until we can get you into RIP." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't want to do that, so I'm just going to go to Fort Stewart." Hindsight's 2020, because what I know now is had I stayed, I could have just gone and done all the schools. I could have gone to Pathfinder, I could have gone to Air Assault, I could have gone to Airborne, and then just waited for the RIP spot, and it would have made my career that much better. But do you know that
They
when
don't.
you're
Well, as a private, you're not going to Pathfinder, but you could probably get into
most of the rest, though.
Walk onto Air Assault,
Especially
and
Airborne. Yeah.
especially Airborne. Air Assault, MTTs, knock out a couple of other low level anybody can get them schools. Maybe one of the local units would, when Rock of the Marne was still there.
Yeah.
Maybe they're doing EIB.
Yeah, because I was an E5 before I got my EIB, just
Hey,
through deployments.
Yeah, it happens.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, we'll get there, but no, that hindsight's 2020, and there's a big part of me that wishes I would have stayed. Also, you can foreshadow and say, well, maybe I wouldn't be sitting here now had I actually gone that route, right?
Yeah.
So who knows?
So you went through basic training in the summer of 2003?
I sure did.
Fort Benning in the summer, in one word.
Miserable.
Fair enough.
Sweaty. Actually, towards the end of it, I graduated October 10th. It was cold.
Mm-hmm.
Cold.
Yeah.
Wild. They just ran the gamut the entire cycle. But also fun. I had a lot of fun. Wasn't that bad.
If you can keep up physically, everything else is fun.
Yeah.
Except for the gas chamber. But
No, I thought that was fun.
did you?
I did, yeah.
You're one of the few.
I am one of the few.
As a drill sergeant, I enjoyed it. As a trainee, I
Well,
did
that's
not.
because you're a sadist.
No, I did enjoy the gas chamber. I went to the gas chamber. I had like a head cold, so for me it was like instant relief.
Cleared you right out.
Right,
Cleared you right
and
out.
and they even told us. Man, I remember Drill Sergeant Dodge and Drill Sergeant Holly and Drill Sergeant Sloan were my drill sergeants. I don't know why I still remember them because I don't remember a lot of people from my career, but those guys, man, they were so nice to us on gas chamber day. Get all the chocolate milk you want. Get all the cereal. Get the donuts. Because back then, and I don't know how it was when you were on the trail. I don't know how it is now, but it was you have to come to the position of attention. You have to do a right face. You have to do a side step. You take the first tray that comes to you. It doesn't matter what's on it. You have to eat everything on the tray. You're not allowed to touch anything that's not on the table. Like it was, we were allowed 1 cup of Powerade, 1 cup of water, no soda, none of that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd see Drill Sergeant Sloan. He had just come back from Afghanistan, and he would go fill his Camelback with Dr. Pepper from the fountain. And I'm like, this is not fair. But they let us have all that stuff for gas chamber day. And I don't know, I guess they just like to see all that stuff come up.
That's interesting too. I mean, he would have been one of the early
Yeah.
Afghan deployments.
Yeah.
And, we've talked about his stuff too, but maybe I'll know each other.
It is entirely possible.
Yeah.
I too have forgotten the names of many people that I served with,
of
but
course.
I still remember my drill sergeants.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, it means that they had an impact.
You
I'm not
know-
going to say it was positive, but
I actually think
An
it was,
impression.
man. I had really good drill sergeants. They were fair, and especially Drill Sergeant Dodge. He had a reputation so I was in Echo Company 258, so all across 258, Drill Sergeant Dodge had a reputation for being that drill sergeant, right? And he was that drill sergeant, but as we got towards the end of the cycle and moved, total control, and then you go to like blue phase and then white phase, and then is it red phase that's the end? I forget.
red phase, blue phase, white
White phase.
phase.
Okay.
Then black and gold towards your.
That's what it was.
Is your AIT portion?
Yeah. So as we, particularly the night we got our blue cords on Honor Hill or our cross rifles, I can't remember what it was. He did a complete 180 and actually treated us like humans and was an actual leader to us. Like, talk to us like adults, talk to us like the now qualified soldiers that we are. And I'll never forget it, man. He put us in a circle for about 6 hours and let us ask whatever questions we wanted. Whatever questions we wanted about where we were going, what he could tell us. Like, just like a conversation like this. It was amazing.
You're now in the club.
Yeah, it was amazing to see, and I'm super grateful because I think a lot of people get bad drill sergeants, like that won't do that, and I'm sure that's across the board, every MOS, whatever, every AIT, but I was blessed, man. I was really blessed.
Yeah. So you were a holdover for a while.
I was not.
Or I'm sorry, you decided not to be a holdover, and you missed out on all those golden opportunities that you would have had if.
I did.
If you had stayed. So you said, sign me up for Fort Stewart.
I sure did.
When did you get to Fort Stewart?
Late October of 2003. About somewhere between 2 weeks and a month after they came home from the invasion.
I was going to say the invasion force is probably coming home.
Yeah. Was not awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Actually, I don't know if I've actually said this publicly. I went to my first platoon sergeant and I told him I wanted to quit. I was like, this is not for me. I'm not like I had squad leaders that would knock on my door at 2 a.m. drunk and read me chapters of a book while I did push-ups. They played private baseball with beer bottles in the hallways of the barracks. I was constantly elevated off the front of a Bradley. I was not learning anything, and I was miserable. I was like, I didn't come here to just be bullied again. That's very much how it felt. Back then it was BDUs and black boots, and any excuse, there's a piece of lint on your shined boots. It's like, man, I spent hours on these things, all because I didn't have a flag and a combat patch on my left shoulder. And you stick out like a sore thumb, man. Back then you did. It was miserable. I lived on the 3rd floor of the barracks. There were times that me and my roommate, Daniel Cassidy, I'll never forget him, he was a cook, we would have to take everything out of our room down 3 flights of stairs, arrange it downstairs, kind of in front of the barracks, like it was set up in our room, and then they would take garden hoses and clean our barracks rooms. It was miserable. I hated every single minute of it until we went to the field and started training.
Yeah.
When we went to the field and started training, and I learned about the wood line and how you can go take out your frustrations with anybody and rank doesn't matter, I was like, let's go. This is what I'm talking about. And, I think I learned a lot, though, man. I really do think that set me up 11 months later to be on my first deployment because, they saw a lot that I didn't see, and I saw a lot. I saw a lot over what would eventually be my 4 deployments, but nothing I saw ever compared to the stories that they had from the invasion. And most people don't know that the 3rd ID was the tip of the spear. They took the airport in Baghdad. I think a lot of credit goes to the Marines for some reason, but 2-7, in fact, was my battalion, and they were at the pointy end of that tip. So 2-7 is also one of the most decorated, I think the most decorated battalion in the entire Army. I carried that guidon for a little bit. Those streamers are heavy from all the campaigns we participated in and the awards we had. So was it a good thing? I don't know. I hated it, but also I think I learned a lot. I learned how not to treat soldiers as I would come up through the ranks, but I also picked up a lot of good leadership qualities, I think, from that. Stern but fair. I was blessed with, team leaders and squad leaders and platoon sergeants, for the most part, that were stern but fair. No mass punishment, really. Never any public embarrassment either, like kind of take you out back and smoke the ever-living dog crap out of you, not do it in front of your peers, and not really embarrass you in front of your peers, so that was good. But it was, those dudes they were pretty messed up, I think. And that was the beginning.
That was the very beginning.
That was the beginning.
Yeah.
So integration was not easy. is what you're telling me.
No, it was not easy. I wanted to quit. I went to my platoon sergeant thinking, like, I'm on a 6-year contract. How do I get out of this? And to his credit, he actually sat me down and talked to me. And instead of just laughing me out of the room or whatever, he actually was like, what's going on? Like, why? You're a good dude. You're a good soldier. You do everything we ask you to do. Like, why? What is it that makes you want out of here? I was like, I can't get away from this, dude. It's constant. It's constant. Somebody's knocking on my door at 2 a.m. I'm trying to sleep because they're drunk. I didn't party back then. I was a young guy. I don't know. It was tough. Integration was tough.
When, you said that it was rough until you went to the field and started training, but when did you start to see it change in the everyday barracks life?
I think after that first field problem, and you kind of go and prove that you have some kind of skill or you can make this, right? Like, I get it. You're an infantry guy that only has basic training experience. These guys have real world combat experience on a conventional scale, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I would say probably after the NTC rotation that we did to get ready to go to Iraq. Once we got orders for Iraq, things got very different. Like, everything was different, from the way leadership was to the way we trained to I also ended up going through that whole, so Fort Stewart, they went away from a conventional infantry unit where it's, an Alpha Bravo Charlie and headquarters, and they went to like an 8-company battalion, right? So we had Alpha and Bravo were the 2 infantry units, Charlie and Delta were the tank units, Echo was the engineers, Foxtrot was all your support, and then you had a headquarters company as well. So I think that also influenced a lot of what was going on. It's just this reorg was going on, and we don't know how to fill these slots and how this is all going to work. We were also moving away from, I'll never forget this, because we crushed the NTC OP4. Like, whoa. Yeah. We
that can happen.
In the conventional scheme of things, right?
It's funny that you think so.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's what they told us. I had no idea because it was my first rotation, but they reset us in the box 3 times. So I imagine we were doing okay. But then they tell us, like, you're not even going to use these conventional tactics when you go to Iraq. Everything's changing. And so I don't know. Everything kind of changed. It was like learn on the fly, really. It's like OJT to the max.
Everything was changing then. Yeah. Because the way things were in Afghanistan is not the way things were in Iraq, and vice versa.
No, and I have experience with both. So
everybody was adjusting on the fly.
Yeah, especially that early in GWAT, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like,
your senior leaders were all Cold Warriors.
Yeah.
So
you might get some guys with some like Panama or Haiti experience or Grenada.
Yeah, maybe some K4.
Yeah, some Balkans experience, but for the most part,
there was no experience. Yeah.
So you went to your first deployment to Iraq in 2003.
Into 2004, early 2005. So let me make sure that I get this right, because I did so many deployments, so I don't really tell war stories because I get them all confused. But we flew out of Fort Hunter Army Airfield to Frankfurt, and we weren't allowed off the plane because they had no cantonment area for any of us. I remember sitting there on the plane, and we were delayed because they had to de-ice or whatever. And then we get into Kuwait. I think we flew into Kuwait City. They bus us over to Camp New York.
With the windows
covered. With the windows covered, yeah, of course. And we go to Camp New York, and Camp New York was nothing but a chow hall tent, and then a mile and a half away was all the berthing for all of us. And I just remember, man, it's hot. It's
just a blow.
Hot.
Kuwait's just a blow
just
dryer.
A blowtorch.
Right in your
face. I don't remember doing anything significant in Kuwait at all. We didn't train. We didn't
climatize.
I think really
that's part of it.
That and stage vehicles for the drive to wherever we were going, and we didn't know where we were going. We just knew we were going somewhere in Iraq north of Baghdad until it was time to drive. And then you have a 1,000 vehicle convoy up MSR Tampa all the way to Tikrit, our battle space was Tikrit and Mosul.
You were way north.
I was way north. Yeah, that deployment. And then it got real, man. We were probably on the road for an hour before when we crossed the border, we were on the road for about an hour before we got in our first firefight.
From Kuwait.
From Kuwait.
So that down near Buka.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and nothing significant. You hear bullets hitting. We're soft-skinned vehicles still.
Welcome.
Right?
Welcome to Iraq.
Welcome to Iraq. We don't want you here, and we're going to let you know it. And I just remember hearing the bullets hit the truck or whatever, seeing the flashes, and kind of our ROE at the time was just return fire. You didn't need PID. It was just, then. It was, and that speaks to more of that deployment. Like the ROE basically was anybody out after curfew, anybody on a cell phone, and anybody on a motorcycle, no questions asked. You eliminate. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And I still don't understand the reason for maybe the cell phone stuff I do, because that deployment was particularly bad because that's when the IED threat was really ramping up.
The 04-05 is when the insurgency reared its head, and that's when the IED started.
Yeah, and I know Tikrit at the time, at least what I was told, we had the biggest VBID threat. And I mean, it's definitely true, because the SF compound in Tikrit, they got hammered with a dump truck full of 155s, blew the entire front of the building off. There's a video out there. I'm sure you guys have seen a Humvee driving down the road domes, because they built, they buried it too deep. I've seen that with my own two eyes, a version of that. I don't know if it's that exact video or not. That deployment, we started it in soft-skin Humvees, putting sandbags in the floor for armor. Now, our Bravo company, they lost 9 dudes like the first 2 weeks to a massive VBID up there. Sergeant Bayal and his crew, his whole truck. I remember having to go pull security while we recovered all of that, seeing all the damage from that, going to the memorials. Really, that deployment for me, I got attached to a support platoon out of Fox Company, so we were just security for log packs, for R&R trips, I was constantly.
But that's where the threat's on the road.
Yeah,
so
1,000%.
When people hear like, oh, you're just up on the roads, no, that's where the threat is.
Yeah, it was rough, man. And I don't think there was a single time that we went out that we didn't get stopped for hours and hours because we hit an IED or something.
Waiting on EOD.
Yeah, that's it. And
that's the motto of the show.
And I remember that deployment as well. Man, welding the pentals in the back of to put the 50 cals or the crew serve weapons on, again lined with sandbags on the floor. I mean, we didn't stand a chance really. Like they knew it. Later that deployment, we would get the 1/2-inch thick steel doors that were way too heavy for the Humvees, and the hinges
couldn't handle it.
Yeah, and the hinges couldn't handle it.
That too,
Fun story. I was actually in the back passenger side of a Humvee, and we're driving down to it was Anaconda, I guess, to take some people to R&R and then do a log pack. And I see on this hill that I passed a million times, I see this dude come up with an RPG, and he shoots it, and I'm thinking, man, this is it for me.
That's it.
That's it for me. Dude didn't pull the pin on it, so it hit that steel door, kind of came out like this and then up kind of by your head and neck. It hit like right in that curve, left a big dent and burn mark on it that I somewhere have pictures of it. I'll have to see if I can find it.
It'll still ruin your day, but it won't. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I pooped in my pants.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I had a nice long conversation with God.
Yes.
And I really don't talk about that very much. I still wake up sometimes to that image. Not very often. I kind of beat that, but dude, all kinds of stuff would happen. I remember we did an operation where I had to pull security while the Fox Company and their HEMTs would take the Jersey barriers and block off all escape routes to the city. They were going to clear them with tanks and Bradleys and just go door to door. I remember getting in firefights where we were putting barriers down, and I remember the truckers, the 88 mics, the guys that they run and hide in their trucks while we get some, I remember my first squad leader getting in a firefight and tucking tail and running back into his Humvee.
I guess now you know.
The GWAT is full of crises of leadership. Yeah, we'll say.
Yeah, I mean, I was scared too, but we're all scared. You got to eliminate the thing that's trying to kill you.
Yeah.
Like, and I can't do that if I'm hiding, you know. So I won't say his name. I don't say his name, but that happened to me.
That's a curiosity. How, if at all, did you handle that with the rest of the platoon leadership?
I didn't have to. I was still a private,
Yeah.
and so the leadership, the more senior leader, they saw it.
They knew it.
They knew it, and the team leaders. I had good team leaders. I really did at the time, and they handled it long before we even got back.
That's
I think
good.
as soon as the engagement was over, they were doing something. Again, I didn't have a lot of knowledge back then, so
Yeah.
I had no idea what the team leaders were doing. But I think part of their LACE report was probably like, "Hey, by the way, this is what happened."
This was your squad leader?
Yes.
How much longer was he your squad leader?
Maybe till that night when we got back, because he completely disappeared. I have no idea what happened to him.
I can tell you what happened to him.
We in the biz we call that self-selection.
He wound up in probably another battalion's S3.
I would imagine. You're probably right. Yeah. I don't know what happened to him. Haven't talked to him since.
He wasn't given another squad.
I'm sure of that. I really hope he. This is the same squad leader I took to the sand pit, because he didn't like white people. I'll leave it at that.
It happens.
Back then, as you guys are well aware, I mean, we had sand pits all over the battalion AO, and the rule in the sand pit was fold your collar in or take your top off. What happens in the sand pit stays in the sand pit. You'll shake hands when you enter the sand pit, and you'll shake hands when you exit the sand pit. Whatever you're dealing with in the sand pit, that's where you leave it. It's the same thing as a wood line in the field.
Yep.
And those sand pits were always full. There was always somebody in them. And I took him to the sand pit because I was tired of his shit.
Men, particularly young men, need an outlet for that kind of conflict and aggression with rules,
Yes,
but conflict and resolution nonetheless.
I agree. I think because eventually, when we came back from that first deployment, the sand pits were gone. They took the railroad ties out. All the sand was gone. There was just a square patch of dirt where they had been.
Yeah, that's about right.
And
2006-ish.
yeah, and I don't think that was a good move, at least from my perspective in the infantry. Like, and I say this a lot, and it's not to put the other MOSs down, but the infantry is a completely different army from the rest of the army. It's completely different. Everything is different. The standards higher. The profanity, the way we talk, the way we handle our business, it's completely different. And I've had senior NCOs come to me that come and get attached to supply sergeants or whatever. They're like, I was not ready for this. I was not aware of what an infantry unit is actually like. So I think in that context, at least in the combat arms context, you need stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, we kept it going when I was at Fort Lewis. This was my last duty station. Once a week, we would circle up on Fridays, and we get the boxing gloves out.
Mm-hmm. Pugil sticks.
Yeah. Yep. So I agree with you.
Yeah. I know in soft communities, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you just rolling.
Yeah, I mean, we would do combatives.
Yeah. Just roll it out.
Yep.
So we talked earlier about how the Army was changing its training and whatnot to adjust to two completely different types of war, completely different than anything that we'd faced in the last, ever.
Yeah.
Do you think that the training that you guys got, both in the field and then at NTC, do you think that was beneficial for you before you, that the training was beneficial to you when you were in Iraq?
So, yeah, thinking back that far, I mean, we just didn't know. I mean, they were developing tactics, I think, as fast as we were, combating them back then.
That's always been warfare, right? From the beginning.
I mean, I can remember, it never happened to anybody that I knew, but I remember hearing stories on MSR Tampa of them dropping grenades in the hatches, through running some kind of line to cut the gunner's head off, right? Mm-hmm. Like underneath the overpasses, you can't see that stuff. I think that's all stuff that was happening while I was in theater that takes a while to trickle down.
Yeah.
Like, how do you actually train for that stuff?
Yeah.
And 5s and 25s didn't exist back then.
Not yet. Yeah.
Like, we didn't have any kind of recovery training process to get off the X, to get to then do a BDA and figure out like
Right.
exactly what's going on. So do I think that it helped? Maybe just getting you in the right mindset for going to war, but as far as like muscle memory and training, no, it didn't help.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when did you guys get back from the first deployment?
I think I left December. I don't remember the exact date. December of 2004, and I came back January of 2006. And then I remember, I'll never forget it, January 11th, in fact. When at Fort Stewart, you land at Hunter, you get bused back to Fort Stewart to the giant parade field there. All your family's there waiting. They do the dog and pony show that none of us want to do because we're exhausted from a year. We look completely different.
But you're dog-faced soldiers, though.
That's it. And we actually sang the song.
Of course.
Of course. I don't even know if I remember the song.
You do.
I probably do.
It's in there.
It's in there somewhere. But we sing the song, and I'll never forget, whomever was in charge was like, and we have one more surprise for you. When you guys show up to work Monday morning, there'll be a physical copy of your orders for your next deployment to Iraq, a year to the day from today.
I got a warning order for Iraq
So you understand.
when I was in Afghanistan.
You hadn't even made it home yet. Yeah.
It was a rough one, too.
Dude, I just was like, I remember my mom and stepdad and brother were there, and they're like, what does that mean? You'll have orders for the next one. I was like, that means we have a date, and I'll be back on this field saying goodbye to you 1 year from today.
12 months.
Yeah. I do remember coming back from that deployment. Was really awesome because they gave us a ton of free time. Like, probably the first 4 months, because there was no reintegration training.
Yeah.
Our equipment was being shipped back, so we didn't still waiting for equipment. So we did the typical. I can't really remember how it went. I know there was a lot of leave and a lot of time off, like a lot of 4-day weekends, a lot of time to get acquainted with alcohol.
Yes. I've also experienced this.
And a lot of time to meet women, to make stupid decisions.
Idle hands.
Yes, man. It was, and then the training cycle started up, and that was it. It was over. There was no more time off. It was
rocket ship.
Yeah, balls to the wall until it's time to ship for the next one, and then the next one was 16 months.
When did you leave?
I left January again.
Yeah, 12 months. So that would have been 07.
Yeah.
So we would.
07, 08.
We would have been in Iraq. That was the surge. That's when they started doing the 15, 16 month or so. Where were you?
I was started in Heat, Iraq.
Yeah.
And ended up towards the end of that deployment, we controlled everything. We called it Arupa out west on the Jordan and Syria border.
Anbar?
Yeah.
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 I was down south in, like, way south, MND southeast, so Nasiriyah.
Yeah.
So we were on convoy escorts picking up the KBR trucks at Cedar, which is just south of where we were, that had come up from Kuwait, and escorting them all the way to Anaconda and turning around and driving back. So again, we talked about, the threat is on the roads.
Yep.
15 months of being nowhere but the roads.
The road. Yeah. So it was the same for my second Iraq deployment. We did a lot in Heat. I mean, when we got there, Heat was under sewage. I mean, the whole town was just flooded with sewage. The roads, all of that. And when we left, we had built them new roads and completely drained all the sewage. We were warned when we did our right and left seat rides that there's this place in downtown Heat that you don't go. It's called 5 Points because you're going to get murked if you go down there. I definitely remember going to 5 Points, and we cleaned that stuff up because we just had the mentality like, this is our battle space, and we're going to do something about this, right? Like, we're going to eliminate this threat. And by the time we left Heat, you could walk through 5 Point. We actually had a 4-star, I forget who it was, came out and took his gear off and put his PC on, and we pulled security. I have a picture of it somewhere. It's really cool because you see all the tall buildings with all the 25 mag holes in it, and the 7.62 and 50 cal. And here's this general walking around and soft skin, no gear, no weapon. It's just like, are you serious right now? Like, are we actually doing this? That deployment was not, ROE, right? Like, that's really what got in the way of a lot of things over there, I think. The ROE had changed so much. Now you have to shoot warning shots, and you have to give them the benefit.
Escalation of force drills.
Dude, and it was just like...
Pen flares.
Yes. Green lasers. Remember those? Just stupid. So stupid. It's like you tied one hand behind our back, and it would get worse, as I'm sure you're familiar, over the deployments. And we were on the road a lot, drove through a minefield, was led through a minefield by a lieutenant colonel. I won't say his name.
Nonsense.
Ended up in Syria by that same lieutenant colonel, which was really interesting because Syria has fighter aircraft and they monitor their borders. They don't like it when you come uninvited. That deployment was also really weird. It gave me a really good taste of how screwed up the Marine Corps actually can be.
Before you get into that,
yeah, sorry,
real quick, there's always turnover after a deployment. You guys had 12 months before you guys were headed right back. And you guys already knew that you were headed right back. How much turnover was there, particularly in the leadership?
Man, honestly, I don't recall a lot of turnover between the first and second deployment. It would be between my second and third deployment at Fort Stewart. And like I said, I was bitter because I got trapped at Fort Stewart for almost a decade. I was there for 9 years. So... yes, of course, brigade leadership changed and battalion leadership changed. We were blessed. We had really good brigade and battalion leadership come in, and they went on to do all the things.
But in the actual
platoons,
in the level that matters most to young soldiers,
we really didn't have a lot. And a lot of the turnover was happening while we were on the first deployment. So guys would get sent. So back then in an infantry company, when you made... So if you got corporal stripes, you went to a completely different squad. When you got sergeant, you went to a different platoon. When you went staff sergeant, they would move you out of the company, and if they could, out of the battalion to a different battalion. And I actually think that was really, really smart.
There's something to that.
So a lot of the turnover, because we were getting promoted fast back then, and would continue to get promoted fast, which is, it's got its own set of problems. And I was a slower to promote guy, which is fine by me because I learned a lot more. I was ready for it when I did get the rank. So a lot of that turnover was happening as we were winding down the deployment or throughout the course of the deployment. So not a lot of that was happening when we got back. Also, most people, at least from my perspective at Fort Stewart, had already re-enlisted for Fort Stewart because the patch chart, they knew the patch chart and they knew that they were going to be going. Those are the guys that I actually looked up to that had the combat experience that were beating my ass when I was a private. And I hated it, but those guys had already re-enlisted to continue to stay in the fight. So there wasn't a lot of the stop loss, stop move guys happening on that first and second deployment.
The guys that know that they're going to be, if they stay, they're going to be going right back into the sandbox, and they re-enlist anyway. Yeah, there's something about that, especially for brand new incoming privates. Or younger junior soldiers, seeing that the leadership say, no, I'm going to go back into this fight with you. It means something.
We're that GWAT generation.
I was that guy.
Love us or hate us,
I was that guy. I joined on a 6-year contract. I figured at the end of 6 years I would know if this was for me, and then 3 years into it, whenever my window opened and I could re-enlist, I was in Iraq on that 16-month deployment, and I re-enlisted. Sergeant Major held my flag for me. I knew what it meant. I knew that I was coming probably back to Iraq or whatever. That second deployment was kind of uneventful, but we had some
other than going into Syria.
Yeah, going into Syria. Back to what I was saying about the Marines. So we actually fell under each one of the different MEFs. So technically, I'm authorized to wear first, second, and I think fifth MEF combat patches. So they were in charge of us, and I saw a lot of crazy stuff from the Marines then, man. I remember I was a corporal on that deployment, so and I would make E5. I remember telling a young Marine on the gun, like, hey, man, you probably should be name tape defilade on that. Not he was all had his feet up there in the turret and just riding high, and we were doing a KLE in this market, and I love going to the Iraq markets because it's like from the medieval times, right? Meat's hanging, flies buzzing, they're cutting
It's
it
like
for
the
you.
opening scene to Aladdin.
It's awesome. I think it's awesome. And the best rotisserie chicken I've ever had in my entire life is in Iraq. And so I love doing those KLEs in the market because we would actually get food. Like we were allowed to go spend $1 and get a whole chicken because that's how far money would go. And we were leaving this KLE, and I looked at this Marine, and my squad leader was standing right next to me, and we both said it at the same time, like, hey, man, you might want to consider, like, not riding so high on the gun because there's a giant IED threat here, and they're not small. And he was like, I ain't no I don't hide the gun. 15 minutes later, we were called as a QRF to go scrape him off the ground.
Yeah.
Another Marine thought it would be a good idea to play monkey bars with the power lines. So he just grabbed the power lines.
I don't recommend that.
Yeah, it's not a good idea. I saw a staff sergeant, an E6 in the Marine Corps, tell a command sergeant major, an E9 with 30 years almost in the Army, that he wasn't going to do something. Yeah, man. So I told you we were at Camp Heat, and we moved out west to AR Rupa. The Marines took over Camp Heat from us, and when they did, I was part of like the last 10 or so guys out. And I also learned that Marine aviators, they're not as good as Army aviators in that they don't take as much risk as Army aviators will. So they wouldn't fly because of weather conditions. So we got stuck there for 4 or 5 days. The Marines put an armed guard on the chow hall, locked the freezer that had cold water in it, gave us a box of MRE and a case of water, and that's it. They wouldn't let us anywhere near any of their stuff. They just treated us like absolute crap. And it just left a really bad taste in my mouth working with the Marines.
It's a different mindset. They take suffering as a badge of honor. Oftentimes in the Army, we are trying to always improve our positions. We don't want to get too soft.
Right.
There's some toughness is necessary, but if we have the ability to improve our situation, we will usually take it. And oftentimes the Marine mindset is not like that.
Yeah, but Camp Heat was just nothing but suffering. You're getting mortared every day. Like I remember landing at Camp Heat when we replaced the Big Red 1. As we got off the helicopter and the guys got on the helicopter, a mortar came in and landed in the line of the guys that were getting on the helicopter to go home, right? Like, it was already a terrible place to be. There was plenty of suffering. You didn't need to make more suffering.
Yeah.
I just didn't understand it. Like, also, I don't understand denying your brothers and sisters water. Like, you're just going to post an armed guard and lock the freezer and say, no, you can't come in here. You just deal with what we gave you? That's really weird to me. I don't know if that's a leadership thing or if that's I never asked. As soon as the helicopter came, I was out.
Yeah.
What else happened that deployment? 3 months in is when we got extended, so come back off patrol, go to the chow hall.
So you didn't know it was a 15 or 16 month?
No, we were told 12,
Yeah.
and it was like clockwork, the 90-day mark, but just see the memo posted all over the chow hall and kind of just around the COP in the hard stand buildings. And I remember coming back from patrol that night. It was late. We had already missed chow, so I'm going to get whatever Lickies and Chewies are in the chow hall, frozen pizzas or whatever it was, cereal. And I just read the memo, and I'm like, well, we just reset the clock to 12 months, 13 months, whatever it was, and here we go again. Let's just start the deployment all over.
Was your reaction the common one?
I didn't care, man. I was just like, there's nothing that I can do about this. I mean, I think my reaction would have been different if I'd have been like those guys from Alaska who flew all the way home and they didn't let them off the plane and then refueled the plane and sent them right back. That would have been different, but I was already in it. And look, I'm not proud of this. and I'm sure you guys relate having multiple deployments, but I remember telling my wife at the time, she called me a psycho because as we drew weapons and hug and kiss each other goodbyes, it's a great day to go to Iraq. I loved being on deployment. Being on deployment it's the easy life. The rules are simple. Kill or be killed.
Yeah.
There's no worrying about what's for dinner, no paying bills, no what are we going to watch on TV, no fighting with nothing. It's just do your job. And
it's brutal, but it's clarity.
We've talked about it before. When you are deployed, you are doing your job. All the training, all the paperwork, the nonsense, all that stuff,
tasking
that you've had to deal with for, the last year or 2 years or however long it was, all that's gone. Mm-hmm. You are now doing your job.
Yeah.
And there's something gratifying and rewarding about that. But then when you come home,
yeah. And I said this to you. It's probably a good thing that I was medically retired in 2015 because I wouldn't have known how to be a garrison soldier. I would have been a terrible garrison leader. I hated counselings. I thought they were stupid. They didn't make sense to me. But this is a guy who was deployed pretty much every other year my entire career. So when you're deployed, that stuff weeds itself out. Performance is easy. You don't need to put it on paper because you make a mistake and everybody's there to see it and you just disqualify yourself, right? Yeah. Like it's just I don't know, man. You're right. There's two very distinct types of leaders. There's combat leaders and there's garrison leaders. I didn't see a lot of my mentors, the guys that I looked up to. Of course, they all got med-boarded too because 4 deployments is way too many for a conventional guy. And your body just doesn't hold up. But I never saw a lot of them do well at the garrison. They wouldn't go past E7. They wouldn't make good first sergeants because they couldn't do the paperwork or they couldn't play nice with, the battalion leadership or the O's, if you will. Yeah. It's just a different...
They weren't good at playing the game.
That's exactly what it is.
Or at least the entire game.
Right.
Well, but there's more than one game.
I think they just didn't have the patience to play the game. They're like, this is stupid. Why are we doing this? Right? Like I think the decision-making framework is much, much shorter and doesn't have as much runway when you're in combat or leading troops in combat and then they want to drag everything out. It's like I can bust you on a piss test tomorrow and it's going to take 3 months to get you out of the Army. Like in combat, I have to make a decision and we execute it in minutes, not in months, right? And we just didn't, I can speak for myself, I didn't have patience to deal with how slow things move when you get back.
You never feel more alive when you're in that level of stress and that level of persistent danger. It's maybe that's a paradox. I don't know.
I agree with that for sure, but that's also it gets dangerous too because you get used to it and then you get complacent.
Yep.
And man, complacency almost lost me my life several times, and I'm not embarrassed to admit that. It's just a fact of life. You get so used to war that you're just like, this is just another day. It's just a Tuesday.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They call it battle rhythm.
For a reason. It makes a lot of sense now, doesn't it?
All right, let's take a quick break here, and when we come back, we'll pick up.
So your 16-month tour, all the fun that you were having with the Marines, and then just driving nonchalantly through minefields and into Syria.
Yeah.
It comes to an end.
Yeah.
It's time to come home.
Yes.
I imagine you were ready.
I was excited, man. The reason I was excited is because I'm finally going to get out of Fort Stewart. I got orders to go to Alaska. Not my first choice. However, I don't like the cold.
You almost called it Alaska.
Yeah, I did. I almost did. I was excited to just, like I said, I joined to travel, to see the world, and Alaska was never on my radar. Like, still to this day, I'm not an Alaska guy.
You re-enlisted during that tour.
I did, yeah. I re-enlisted for another 6 years on that tour.
For another 6 years.
For no bonus.
What?
Yeah, no bonus. It was, I say no bonus, it was $7,500.
Not the biggest bonus?
Wow.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I watched the Air Force JTACs re-enlist for $170,000.
Oh, I
And
know.
I was like,
I know.
I tell people jokingly, I really wouldn't change anything about my career or my service, but my advice to people who ask me, would you recommend my kid join? Yeah, go to college first and then go to the Air Force. And I genuinely believe that because my sister is Air Force, her husband's Air Force, my childhood best friend was in the Air Force. It's just better. It's just better. And seeing the kind of money JTACs and some of the other MOSs in the Air Force re-enlisted for, I was just like, man, they really care about their people. They're going to take care of their people. I didn't even get stationed at choice. Like when I re-enlisted, I stayed at Fort Stewart because that was my option. It was either that or go to Fort Irwin. I was like, we're definitely not going to Fort Irwin because I was already hooked on deployments. So I guess Fort Stewart it was.
This would have been 2007?
07, I want to say.
Surge time frame.
Yeah, maybe towards the end of 07.
11th ACR was deploying then.
Were they?
They sure
They
were.
did.
Their first deployment
Black
was
Horse.
in 2006 because I was there.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, either way, I just knew I had some good leaders who had spent some time out at Irwin doing the thing out there that we all go do, and they were like, "No, don't do it, dude. It's miserable. It's miserable."
Fort Irwin is a lovely duty station. Everyone should try it.
Dan, blink twice if you're under duress.
I was gonna say, how can you say that with a straight face?
Blink twice.
I actually did enjoy my time at Fort Irwin. Not because of where it was, but the people that were there.
Fair enough.
And then the mission that we had there.
Yeah, fair enough. So yeah, I did re-enlist that deployment. Came home, this is where my career kind of gets a little gray for me because of all the deployments, all the op tempo. We actually started a mission shortly after we got home for the rest of 08 and early 09, and at the time it was called Sea Smurf. So it was basically we were QRF. Imagine kind of like what Bragg, I think, had for a long time. 48 hours anywhere in the world to respond to some kind of natural disaster, nuclear threat, nuclear bomb, whatever. We had an A and B bag packed. They were locked in a cage. And then we would be on red cycle, and we would have literally a 1 hour recall.
Yeah.
And I watched so many people get in trouble.
Yeah,
for
the division ready forces. At that time, like every brigade had one company or one battalion that was doing that because the op tempo was so high.
Yeah, and so I was a part of that, which made us non-deployable for an entire year. So I got a little bit of a break between the second and the third deployment, and so
you guys were on the ready force for a year.
Yeah.
That's an 18th Airborne Corps thing.
Yes, sir.
That's long.
Yeah, it was a long time, and it was miserable. I mean, I think what made it not so miserable is we had 8 companies, so it would cycle through all the companies, so you got more of a break than you would have in kind of a traditional infantry company, like when I got back to Lewis, and I did it again when it was called GRF. Mm-hmm. Oh, boy. That was the end of my career. And it was the coolest thing we did while we were on Sea Smurf was we got this recall, and we were all over it because Third ID and their infinite wisdom, they take that stuff to the extreme. They overdo it, and it really, I think it's kind of to the detriment of the soldier because you start crying wolf and then you don't believe it anymore. So we actually got recalled one night. It was like 2 a.m. I was not happy about it. None of us were happy about it. And the next thing I know, we're loading up like all the trucks and the Bradleys, and we're actually going somewhere. We ended up somewhere in Florida for a week doing some pretty cool training. It was actually pretty cool training, and I enjoyed it. Other than it was hot, but it's Fort Stewart, Georgia, so it's hot and humid anyway. So we did that, and then somewhere while I was on GRF, I came down on orders to go to Alaska. So I knew I was going to come down on orders towards the end of my second deployment. I just saw the pattern of people getting orders on deployments or shortly after deployments, and I knew my time was coming. So I get orders towards the end of GRF, and I do all the things, right? I clear the company, I clear the battalion, I clear the brigade and post, and I turn in all my CIF that's not going to go with me to Alaska. And I get I get a phone call from the retention NCO, and he's like, "Hey, man, I just wanted to give you a heads up. They're about to delete your orders." I was like, "Excuse me, what?" He's like, "Yeah, man, they're going to put a stop move on everybody with orders, and you're going to go back to Iraq a third time." I was like, "Are you kidding me?" So I start using – I didn't really use the open door policy. I walked right into First Sergeant's office, and I said, "What's up with this? Why did I just get this phone call?" And First Sergeant was like, "Yeah, man, I was just coming to find you to deliver the bad news."
While you're here.
So I then started using Third ID's open door policy, and I went as far as Sergeant Major Jesse Andrews, who was the division command sergeant major, who basically told me to kick rocks. You're going to go to Iraq a third time. And they deleted my orders. It was kind of ridiculous because I fought it so hard that I delayed going to NTC with my unit. They had gone to NTC, and I showed up a week later just in time to go to the box, of course, because I had to redraw CIF and all of that stuff. I did everything I could, and I wasn't trying to get out of a deployment. I was just trying to go to a new duty station. I actually I found out who the brigade commander was at the brigade I was supposed to go to because my orders had the brigade I was going to. Turns out it was Lieutenant Colonel Todd R. Wood, or Colonel Wood, Fulbird at the time, who was my battalion commander for my first deployment. So I emailed him as like a last-ditch effort to see if he would pull any strings for me. I didn't even think the dude would remember me. He actually responded with a really awesome email. He's like, "Of course I remember you, and I would love to have you in my brigade. Let me see what I can do." And he didn't even have the power to get me to go to Alaska. And this is relevant when we talk about my Afghan deployment. So remind me to talk about Colonel Wood about the Afghanistan deployment. So they stopped moving me. They deleted my orders, redrew CIF, went to NTC, and a month later I was back in Iraq a third time. And this time we were in Mahmudiya, Lusafia, Qadisiyah, the Iron Triangle, Baghdad area.
Babylon.
Yeah, and I'm really not sure what our mission was, to be honest. It ended up, my platoon became the bastard children of Bravo Company 27 Infantry. We did not have a good first sergeant. That first sergeant did not like me. I beat him in combatives in the field, and he had an open challenge, and he didn't like being shown up by people of lesser rank or whatever. He also would get relentlessly made fun of because he was overweight and didn't do PT. He's just not a good leader. He did not like our platoon, so he banished us. It was my first deployment being on a giant FOB. We were on... What did they call that over there? The whole green zone. Not CAF, but we were in Baghdad, and that's where BIOP. That's it. And we had the chews and like 2 men to a room and like air conditioning, and showers every day. It was awesome, right?
KBR chow.
We did that for a week, and then First Sergeant banished us to FOB Constitution, which was the ING FOB attached to. So we would get mermaided chow. We had no showers, and did we do that first, or did we do the? Okay, I misspoke. So we did do that. We actually got banished to Taji first, where we got to be the ARF platoon, which was awesome because all we did was eat and work out and play with helicopters and pilots, and they loved us and we loved them. We did that for like 60 days, which was a welcome break. And then we got banished. We got recalled back to BIOP, and then First Sergeant was like, "No, I got a special mission for you guys. You're not going to live sweet like you are in Taji. We're going to send you to FOB Constitution." And best I can tell, our mission there was as soon as the sun would go down, we would go be QRF for the entire country. Wherever there was a log pack that got hit by an IED or a firefight or something, we were dispatched, and we wouldn't come back till the sun was way up. And like clockwork, we knew we were going to get a call every single night, probably after the first, 3 or 4 weeks of doing that. That deployment, I broke my foot on patrol, and then the Army in their infinite wisdom decided to keep me there and patrolling on a broken foot, which caused a bunch of bone death. Long story short, I ended up getting medevac through Ramstein for that deployment. And actually, they beat me home. I didn't get home from that deployment until after the rest of the unit had gone home. They held you in
Ramstein, or Longstool.
No, what they did was that first sergeant didn't want me to leave. Like, he did everything. I was supposed to go to the E6 board. He stopped that from happening because I had broken my foot, because I could no longer take a PT test. We weren't taking PT tests over there to go to the board. He fought it every step of the way. The doctors are telling him, this dude needs to go home. You're going to cause permanent damage to him.
Yeah.
And long story short, I ended up having 3 surgeries on that foot after I got home, and it was a mess, dude. It was a big mess. They PCS'd me after that deployment to Fort Lewis while I was still in a boot, which should have never happened, which gave me not a great reputation when I showed up to my new unit.
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
How did you break your foot?
On a patrol, jumping over a canal. I just kind of landed on the 2 little toes, and it sent all of the shockwave pressure up to they call it the head of the 5th metatarsal, so it's kind of rounded. It just shattered that whole thing all the way up those 2 toes. So they put a bunch of screws and wire and a plate in there to hold it all together, but because they had kept me in country so long, the bone actually died, so it was never going to heal back. So they did another surgery to remove that plate because it was so close to the outside of my foot. I couldn't wear a shoe without, I tell people, they can't believe this. It was broken for so long, I wish I would have never had a single surgery on it and just left it the way that it was. I think I would be in less pain than I am today because of all there's not a lot down there on your foot, right?
Yep.
And it's so close to the skin. To this day, the scar is pretty painful. So if I go to a massage or I get a pedicure or anything like that, I have to tell them, like, hey, just be careful. You can't miss it. It's a giant scar. It's very noticeable. So I had the first surgery to take the plate out, and then they wanted to try another put some, I'm not a doctor, but they did some ultrasound probe thing, which was technically another surgery. Then ultimately the 3rd surgery took all the stuff out. So basically for almost, 9 months, I didn't walk. I was just scooted and crutched around, PCS'd on a scooter, showed up to Fort Lewis to reception on one of those scooters, scooting myself around. And the general consensus was how are you even here? They should have never let you PCS.
You, for the longest time, you weren't able to PCS on a profile.
Yeah.
That did change in recent years. I don't know if it's still, because I've been retired for a few years now, but that did change depending on what your profile was. Yeah.
To eliminate this exact scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I did. I showed up so I go through reception at Fort Lewis, and Sergeant First Class Bloom, I'll never forget him. He's a good leader, but he was not very nice to me when I showed up. He was the Rear D NCOIC when I showed up to 123. And he looked at me straight in the face, and he's like, "You're not going to make it here. You're already a piece of shit." And I was like, okay, here we go. You have no idea any of my stuff.
Other than that, it's great.
Yeah, right. I showed up. I watched the last striker of ACO 123 that had my new first sergeant in it leave as I was walking from battalion to the company to check in. So for 2 weeks, they were over in Yakima. I was on Rear D. And I will give Sergeant Bloom his credit. He let me go do the things that I needed to do, like get on post housing, go draw equipment, because they didn't do any of that at reception. So I got to do all my medical appointments, all of that. So I didn't really do a whole lot, or wasn't responsible for anything other than taking care of myself while I was on Rear D when I first showed up to Lewis. But then First Sergeant gets back, and he wanted to see, there was 5 of us. He wanted to see all of us one at a time in his office. And I was first, and I walked into his office, and he's like, same thing. You're not going to make it here. Why did they send me? You're broken. I don't want you. I'm going to get rid of you. I was like, roger that first. He didn't even really give me a chance to speak. He said, I want you to grab your medical records, and I want you to come with me over to the aid station. And it was 4 doors down, and the company AO. And Doc Rodriguez, one of the best PAs I ever had in the Army, he takes a look at the issues that are going on with my foot and points to the boot. He looked First Sergeant Rob straight in the eyes, and he said, First Sergeant, this dude's he's not faking anything. He's really genuinely screwed up. You should give him a chance. They should have never let him PCS. This isn't his fault, that kind of thing. Doc Rodriguez saved my career, and First Sergeant Rob ended up becoming my biggest mentor in the Army. I love that man so very much, and it pains me because he is in in a bad way right now, and I cannot get through to him.
Yeah.
I just talked to him for the first time in 2 years about a week ago, and I got like maybe 3 return texts back out of him. It breaks my heart because I don't know how much, if that man knows how much he means to me, but I watched him do a 180 after Dr. Rodriguez said that. He took me under his wing and he told me, you're not going to like this, but it's going to benefit you. And he put me in the training room. And that's like a death sentence. It's a death sentence for an infantry guy.
I know this because it always sounds so patronizing, but more often than not, it's actually true.
Yeah. Well, I actually think that, I don't think I know, it was probably the best thing that could have happened for me for career progression because I learned so much about how the Army works.
But nobody wants to hear it at the time.
No. And look, man, I'm the type of guy that if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it all balls to the wall, right? Like I'm not going to half-ass anything. I'm going to whole-ass everything. There's a quote that I love. It's how you do anything is how you do everything. And that's, I keep that in mind when I do anything. So I was like, yeah, you're right. I'm not going to like this, but what choice do I have? I don't have a choice. His one promise to me was, once you're recovered and you prove to me that you're recovered, I will give you the choice of whatever platoon you want to go to. I'll give you whatever squad you want. Like, I will treat you fairly if you can demonstrate to me your proficiency and your ability.
That is a good leader.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal leader, and I love the man seriously to death. Nothing I wouldn't do for him. So we start the whole training cycle, and I started adjusting to the training room life, and I got really good at it. I made things efficient. I was basically doing First Sergeant's job for him, so all he had to do was focus on the soldiers. And I really think that he gives me a lot of credit for that. I know he does because when we were in Afghanistan, he said as much, but I learned a ton. I learned a ton about how the battalion works because I would frequently have to go sit in on battalion meetings for First Sergeant as a E5, E6 training room guy. Like, it's really weird sitting in those meetings, just being quiet in a corner. But you get to learn, man. You get to learn a ton. And I would have to go to brigade sometimes and do that. I also developed a reputation in the company for taking care of those menial issues that never get taken care of by the training room, the awards, the pay issues. I didn't mess around with S1. I would walk right up into that office and be like, do your damn job.
So their posted hours, you would disregard them?
Yeah, no.
But what about when they were doing sergeant's time training at 9 a.m.?
Your sergeant's time training is taking care of my soldiers' issues, period, end of story. And they did not like seeing me come over there, so they learned pretty quick, like, this dude's not going to back off, so we're just going to handle it. And when I learned about a DA Form 200, which is a hand receipt for paperwork, oh boy, they hated me.
It's called accountability.
Yes. Yep. And boy, like, it's the most basic skill we have in the Army. Like, so everything from a 4187 to a chapter packet, I learned about a DA 200 and man, let them screw me over on some paperwork.
That was one of the most valuable lessons that I learned as a drill sergeant. Because it was always, this guy who you're trying to recycle or you're trying to get rid of, or his whatever paperwork is screwed up because he's an 18-year-old and he got married before he came to basic training, whatever. It was always something.
Yeah.
And as a drill, most of your paperwork personnel are civilians who have been doing the job for 25, 30 years, and they don't care because they've got that, they've got that job locked down.
Yeah.
Until you start holding them accountable.
They don't like it, do they? Yeah, no. So I got to Fort Lewis, I think in late January of 2011, and probably 6 months in to doing the training room thing and integrating into the company and just really kind of coming into my own as an NCO with the best leadership I ever had in the military. That one ACO 123 from the time I got there in 2011 till we came back from Afghanistan late 12, early 13, as dudes started leaving in the middle of 13. You won't convince me there's a better unit in the Army, and that applies to all the special operations units. We were that good. I mean, we were just so cool to be a part of that. And it's really like my fondest memories in the Army is being in that unit. So as I'm integrating into that and learning all the things that I didn't learn in a mech unit, because really a striker unit, they're so antiquated. They don't know how to use a vehicle to fight like the Bradley guys do. So they're very light mentality still.
Yes.
And I didn't have that. I wanted that experience. I actually wanted to go to Fort Drum. That's where I always wanted to go. I know that's laughing. I know that's a terrible thing to say now, given 10th Mountain's history over the GWAT, but my whole career, I wanted to go to Fort Drum. I wanted the mountain training. I wanted the cold weather. I wanted the light experience. I don't know, call me crazy. That was the challenge for me. And so I was getting that light stuff, and I was getting to interact with, the platoon sergeants and the squad leaders that had that fight experience. So I was learning and constantly learning new things. And First Sergeant would let me go train, glass house drills and gun team drills and stuff like that when I didn't have training room responsibilities. So then we get surprise orders to go to Afghanistan. And I'm like, all right, this is cool. Like, this is the last kind of block I've got to check as an infantry guy, right? Like, I've been to Iraq 3 times, got CIB, got EIB, got the awards, whatever. Like, what else is there left for me to do? I mean, I could have gone to Ranger School, Airborne School, Aerosol, all of that stuff. I never had time for that. I was just deployed too much. So I was like, this is kind of like the final, check the block thing, if you will. And First Sergeant's like, I can't take you, right? I was like, excuse me, what? Like, you mean I'm going to do all this work to get all this, ready for you guys to go, and you're going to leave me here? He's like, yeah, I'm thinking about making you the Rear D NCOIC. I was like, you have tons of E7s that aren't going, that can be Rear D NCOIC. I said, First Sergeant, what do I need to do to get myself into this deployment? And he was like, I don't know, but you could start by going to SRP and talking to them. I was like, okay.
Were you still not recovered yet?
No, I still on a profile, which is why.
Was it a permanent profile?
It was. It ended up becoming a permanent profile, yeah. And it makes you non-deployable, unfortunately. So he told me to start at SRP. He said, if you can bring me something signed saying that you're clear to go on this deployment, I will take you. But I'm going to take you in the training room capacity, and you're going to run my talk. And I was like, roger that, whatever. I just want to go. So I go over to SRP, which is clear on the other side of Fort Lewis from where ACO was. And I walk in there, and they look at me, and they're like, what are you even doing here? Your unit's already been through here. I was like, I just need to talk to somebody who can clear me to go to Afghanistan. They're like, well, it's going to be this major so-and-so. I was like, cool, where is he at? And they're like, he's busy doing the SRP thing with the unit that we have coming through here. I was like, well, what do I have to do to talk to him? They're like, well, you can sit there and wait. So I sat there for about 9 hours and waited for him to get done. I was the last person he saw that day. I walk into his little cubicle that they had set up for him. He's like, how can I help you, Sergeant Peters? I was like, I need you to send me to Afghanistan. His jaw hit the table. He's like, can you repeat that? I said, I need you to sign this piece of paper saying that I can go to Afghanistan. He's like, I'm not sure I understand you correctly. Every single person that I see in here wants me to get them out of a deployment, and you want to get into a deployment? I was like, yeah, roger that. He's like, what's stopping you from going? I was like, I told him the story about my foot and all the issues that I've been. He's like, that's it? He's like, what's your First Sergeant say? I said, well, he can't take me because I'm on permanent profile. He said, if I can get a signature from somebody who says I can go, he'll take me and I'll be in the talk. He's like, okay, I'll sign it. He signed it right there on the spot. I took it back to First Sergeant the next morning, and he took me to Afghanistan. Like, there's a way to do anything you want to do in the military.
Yeah. There's a waiver for everything.
There really is. And like, the dude was just that major was so over the moon that, like, I was a guy with 3 previous deployments who knows what a deployment means, and I'm not trying to get out of it. I'm actually trying to get into it. He's like, I've never experienced this ever.
You have to imagine that the vast majority of people that come through there, we already said it, but the amount of pitiful, lame excuse making that he has to endure all day long about how I can't deploy because my dog has diabetes and all this, and then you have somebody come in who's like, let's do this.
Mm-hmm. Everybody always has a sob story.
I don't know. So we go to Afghanistan. When did we go? Like
13?
It would have been 12. No, it was 12. The beginning of 12. So we got orders towards the end of 11. It flip-flopped a lot, and this is where we get back to the training that you had asked me about. The training for Afghanistan was phenomenal because originally we were supposed to go over there and do VSO operations. And so we were getting like I forget how they did it, but each platoon took, and we were never full MTO ever. We never had full. You guys know this, right? It's not a surprise to anybody. I mean, most of our platoon sergeants were E6s anyway. So
it's a myth, yeah.
So they ended up like taking a squad and a half and turning those into and sending them with an SF team, and we were all over the country doing training, and I got to be a part of that, learning VSO ops, learning how Green Berets do things. So awesome, really awesome training. Last minute, they switched us back to conventional battle space operations. So all we knew was we were supposed to be doing VSO operations with first group.
Real quick for the audience, explain VSO.
Yeah, so VSO is Village Stability Operations, and essentially you're going out with an SF team living on the local economy in a fortified position, if you will, basically living off the economy, inserting yourself into these towns and cities. And I guess, I don't know, I can't speak to it because I was not a Green Beret. I never actually did the operations, but apparently they were extremely effective. I don't know. I'm just told that they were effective. And so what I knew was we were going to get to grow our hair long, grow beards, and kind of just be away from the flagpole. So, of course, and for us conventional guys, access to money and gear is always, I mean, it's always a no-brainer. Like, you want that, right? So we were going to get access through, the SF budget to have all this cool gear, plate carriers instead of IO TVs or whatever we called them, the high-speed helmets at the time, better nods, all that stuff. Like, we were going to get access to all that stuff. So it's like a regular infantryman's wet dream, right? Mm-hmm. And then last minute, they said, no, you're going to go do traditional battle space operations, and you're going to go do it in the Panjwai district of Afghanistan and RC South. And I was like, okay, I don't know anything about Panjwai. So a quick Google says, well, this is the birthplace of the Taliban. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh boy. And then you start reading more, and you see that the Canadians got messed up.
Smoked.
They got messed up there, and they were running Bradleys. Yeah. So, all right, so we start paying attention to all the SIGACs coming out of Panjwai before we get out there. And I see the brigade commander's name of the unit that's there, and who is it? It's Colonel Todd R. Wood.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is going to be awesome. So we go to Afghanistan. I went Advon, obviously, as the Talkins COIC or whatever. I would go early and stay late, and I prefer it that way because it's just way better travel. Yeah. Yep. But we get into country and get out to Panjwai, and we're doing the thing. I think it was like February that we went, or early February. And we're doing the left and right seat rides, and immediately I noticed how defeated these guys look. I mean, they have just been through the ringer, and that was foreshadowing because we all looked the same way at the end of that deployment. That deployment really overshadows my other three in a big way, in loss, in casualty, in op tempo, in just how hard the deployment actually was. More than the first one where the ROE was basically kill everybody, and more than the other two where we were just constantly on the road. This deployment it's just different. You may know, you have a lot of experience in Afghanistan, Dan. I only have the one deployment, so that's what I go off of, but it's a completely different fight. They're way more organized. They have strategic caches, medical caches, weapons caches. They know how to bounding Overwatch. They know how to set up ambushes.
They're tough.
They don't quit, man.
They're tough.
They do not quit.
They've been doing it since before Alexander.
Yeah, there's a reason the Russians failed and everybody else failed. Everyone. Yeah.
Everyone.
I mean, even the Macedonians didn't stick around long.
So, so we get in there, and the rest of the unit shows up, and we're doing, the official left and right seat rides. We're no longer doing the scouting, learning the battle space kind of thing, and the brigade commanders get together on the COP to do their little dog and pony show, and standing in the talk because we're starting to hand everything over, and here comes Colonel Wood. And he, the battalion commander and brigade commander and the first sergeant and the commander are all doing their little circle powwow, talking to the brass or whatever. And I see him look at me because I'm just standing in the corner like the good little boy that I'm supposed to be, minding my own business. I see Colonel Wood look at me, makes eye contact with me. He cuts them all off. He walks straight over to me and gives me a hug and says, "Hey, let's step outside. I need to talk to you." We had a conversation out there about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for 45 minutes, and I got my ass chewed by the company commander afterwards because I took away the brigade commander of the outgoing unit. And I'm glad he had that conversation with me because he opened my eyes to what we were about to go through. And he told it to me straight like he had always done when I was a young private in his battalion. He's just like, "Man, this is going to be a fight like unlike anything you've ever experienced." He's like, "I wasn't ready for it, and I'd be remiss if I didn't pass along what you're about to go through. And I'm telling you this because I know you have the ability to get your guys through this." And I was like, "Man, that's really cool." Like, this dude doesn't owe me anything. I was just a dumb private when he met me. For him to remember me and then to abandon his quote-unquote responsibility in that talk and come over and talk to me personally on a personal level was that's leadership to me, man. That's really, really cool. And then it was game on, man. I was working in a talk with a 100-foot raid tower and some radios and a map board, and we were getting hammered, dude. It was probably maybe 3 weeks before we had our first casualty. And these were all, we couldn't do anything with the strikers because of all the grape rows and all that stuff. Like, it's just, the terrain wouldn't allow it. So everything was done on foot. And we were, I forget the type of IED that they were using, but we had to use the mine detectors to find them, right? So they're out there patrolling with the Valens and all these metal detectors or whatever they are, GPRs, and one wrong step, man, and dudes are getting screwed up. And it was tough, dude. It was tough because now I'm the one working the radios, calling in the medevacs for these dudes, and I'm the one that's got to give the casualty report to the command, and I'm the one that's got to call in the air assets, and I don't have a picture of what's going on the ground, right? Because I can't see anything. So we have the first couple of casualties. I can't remember what order they went in, but we get to July 7th, 2012.
Real quick.
Yeah.
What was the deployment experience within the unit before you guys went to Afghanistan?
A lot of us, man, there was a lot of us that were going on, a multiple deployment, right? So we had our fair share of young guys that were on their first deployment, but I'd say overall, most of us had at least one.
Was it mostly Iraq or Afghanistan or a combination of both?
It was a mix. Fort Lewis, I think, is kind of a catch-all for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so you do get a really good mix of different experiences. Look, I was excited to go to Fort Lewis when I got orders because when I was going there, they were using the Land Warrior system, and I think technology's cool. I know it was a colossal failure or whatever, and I never even saw the system because they had phased it out.
Let's not go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, for sure. But, you hear whispers of that when you're at other units, so you get excited about stuff like that. Like, I'm kind of a geardo when it comes to that, but we did have quite a mix, man. I'm still a rare breed with 4 deployments, 3 to Iraq, 1 to Afghanistan. I think close to 50 months, if not 50 months of combat time. But we had quite a mix of Afghanistan and Iraq deployments, which I think made for really. I think that's why the unit was so good, why our company was so good, because you have, and most of the Afghanistan guys, at least the ones that I worked with that had the experience, they were up in the mountains in northern Afghanistan, like in the real hard fight, not the Panjway. It was just a different fight.
Yeah.
And so,
if you can remember, what was the reaction when you guys first started taking that? Whether it was the first casualty or as the casualties started piling up.
It was a wake-up call, man. I think a lot of us, because of the deployment experience and just kind of the ego going into war, this is war, I got this. I've done this multiple times at this point for a lot of time. So, like, the complacency was real. I think it was a big wake-up call. This was my first deployment on a company COP. We had less than 100 men out there. Yeah. Not only do we have to man all 4 towers, have an SOG, we also have ground lock, which was halfway between a little combat outpost that we had to man at the very tip of the Horn of Panjway. So you're running raggedy, and I really think the complacency that the experienced guys went into it with was a big wake up call as we start, really getting into the thick of the fight. And so, it goes on, and, we do a couple of operations with the ANGs, and, those go well, I guess. And so they put together a big battalion operation that's supposed to execute in early July of 2012. And the chief of the ANG ended up leaking to the Taliban everything that was going to happen. We would find this out later after July 7th, but July 7th is still one of the worst days of my life. It's the day we lost Navarro. It's the day that Sergeant Barrera became a triple amputee. Byers lost both of his legs that day. Our ACO ended up with a couple of casualties and a striker that got blown to pieces. It was nonstop that whole day. Kearney called in his own medevac after getting blown up, stepping on an IED, called in his own medevac, was still, he was a squad leader in 2nd Platoon. I think he had a bunch of shrapnel damage, didn't lose any limbs or anything, but very clearly wasn't talking right, but still calling in his own medevac. And through the radios, I could hear him, leading his squad still. That just nonstop from the time I woke up. We did 12-hour shifts in the TOC, and I would work the day shift because it was always the most busy. Not a lot happened at night, and we weren't allowed to do night operations, of course, because the Army in their infinite wisdom. So I don't think I slept for 2 days after that. Yeah. Just because I felt so helpless in the TOC. I can't see what's going on. I can't give any of my guys a heads up of what's about to happen to you guys. All I have is a mat board that's not even really to scale. It's piecemealed together, and I've got little push pins that I can track frontline traces with. And if you're not updating me with your frontline trace, I have no idea where you're at.
It's worthless.
Yeah.
You're a battle-tested combat veteran who is seeing his brothers in arms going through all this, and you're stuck there not being able to do anything for them, or at least the way that you had been trained your whole career. Yeah. For the most part, to be able to help them now.
Dude, it's just, I remember too when Navarro sat on the IED and they said, 1 KIA, and I found out his battle roster number, who it was. I remember it because the night before, Navarro was scared of being promoted. We were gonna make him a corporal, and he was afraid he wasn't ready for the responsibility. So I had like an hour-long conversation after the gym outside of the TOC the night before they left on that mission, saying, man, the fact that you're saying this right now tells me that you're ready to hold this rank.
That's how that works.
And it was a placeholder, right? Like, we were promoting him to corporal because he passed the board and he didn't have enough points or whatever the situation was at the time. We're going to give you the responsibility through making you a corporal, and you're going to get the pay when the next month or whatever. And he said he wasn't ready for it. And I was like, Navarro, you're so ready for this, man. Like, the fact that you're saying this means that you're ready for this. The fact that you're having this conversation and seeking advice on it is why you're ready for this. Now go be the leader that you're supposed to be. I just remember after hearing that call come across the radio, the desk at the TOC that all the radios and everything were on was probably 4 inches thick of plywood and 2x4 or whatever, and I hit that thing so hard I thought I broke my hand, and the table didn't even feel it. I didn't know what else to do, man. Like you said, you're so helpless. Like, all I can do is talk on a radio and make sure that I get you what you need as fast as possible, and that's it. And it's a pretty helpless place to be in because
and what you're doing there is critical. Yeah, it is important, but as a trigger puller, it doesn't feel that way in the moment.
No, and it's hindsight's 20/20, right? Because I can sit here, 14 years later and say, well, if I did have a rifle and I was out there in sector with you, what difference would I have made? Probably none, honestly. Like, maybe would have made myself another casualty. Yeah. So July 7th, also, we had a soldier filling up the generators who blew up a generator on himself, third-degree burns over like 70% of his body. So I think I called in like 8 or 9 medevacs that day. It just was never ending. And Woke up after I finally went to bed, woke up whatever day it was and found out we had another incident while I had been sleeping. And I felt guilty because I wasn't in there to handle it and do my thing, right? But like also I hadn't slept in 2 days. So like how useful am I in the talk? So that was July 7th was the big one. And probably 2 weeks later, we get probably the coolest piece of equipment that we ever got for Afghanistan, which was the PTIDS, which is a blimp with 2 cameras on it, the same cameras that the Apaches, I believe, use. Mm-hmm. Man, then it was a game changer because let me tell you how lethal I was with that thing. Dude, the second they turned it over to me and I could see the battle space, I was like, it's game over for you guys. Yeah. I'm going to kill every single one of you. And I started, and it was not maybe 48 hours after the balloon went up. We did our first engagement with the balloon, and it was open the floodgates, man. I got so good using that thing and communicating with the civilians because the civilians we call them the blimp drivers. They're the ones who drive it. I don't even know how much of this stuff I'm even supposed to talk about, but that thing was cool, man. There was only one, the southeast corner of the battle space I couldn't see because the buildings were too tall. That was the only area of the battle space I could not see. And I got so good with this thing, man. You guys probably remember TigerNet. You remember TigerNet and the maps that they had on there? Well, I actually got in trouble with the civilians because back then, nobody knew really what to do with TigerNet. And I was like, well, instead of using this shitty map board, let me use TigerNet to track frontline traces. It's got all the infantry symbols on there. It's got vehicle symbols. Yep. It's got... I ended up using one of the red symbols for enemy and marking where IED locations were. So now I can put together con-ops for patrols that are going out the next day. Like, hey, as of 24 hours ago, I watched X number of military-age males in place an IED right here. I got so good that I could follow these people with the camera, watch them on their IED arming routes, and mark to a 10-digit grid where they're arming these IEDs so we could just go out and just eliminate all the threats.
They had classes in the NCOS system and probably in the officer schools as well on how to use it. Nobody ever used it the way that they were instructed to use it. Most people just, this is useless hot garbage.
Yeah, no, I disagree strongly.
And nobody touched it.
I disagree strongly because those same civilians that would call me, they flew out to the talk for me to demonstrate and show them how we're using it. Now, imagine, if you will, 2 55-inch screens on the wall in front of me, a bank of radios right here, and air assets on standby for whatever I need them for. And I've got this piece of technology that sits in front of me that nobody can tell me how to use or what it's for. And I find a way to just keep track of my guys on the ground and give them a heads up or tell them where a threat's at or, whatever. I was like, this makes all the sense in the world to me. So when they came and I showed them how to use it, how we were using it, I want to say they told me they were going to go back and start showing people exactly how I was using it. It was awesome, man, because I could take screenshots out of TigerNet, put it in the con-op for the platoon leaders and the platoon sergeants as they're building their patrols. And it was a complete game changer. And then you pair that with the Wolfhound chatter that you've got going on. So you're confirming what I'm seeing visually through enemy Wolfhound chatter. It's like no brainer. And this is why I say being in the training room and being in the talk taught me so much about war. It taught me so much about not just the platoon and squad and company level, but from the battalion level and the brigade level even, because we would do big brigade operations and I could track all the positions, not quite as real time as I could with the platoons and the squads, but I could get the frontline traces.
Pretty close.
And I could see the entire battle space and tell my guys on the ground, do not shoot this way because you're going to shoot friendly guys. You're being moved on by a group of 4 military-age males. You're going to come up on a bridge in the next 300 meters. They're on the left side of the bridge waiting for you to come across that bridge to waste you. And so now you can set up your own linear ambush to ambush the ambush, right? It was amazing, man. It was amazing technology, and we did a lot of strikes with that. We got so good. Dark Horse was the aviation I think they were from First Cav, maybe. I don't remember. I just remember their call signs.
That sounds like a First Cav thing.
They would constantly. So Panjwai sits south of, I forget what river it is, and then to the north was some other brigade's battle space. And they had it rough, but not nearly as rough as we had it. I'll say this. When I was running that talk, the whole time we were in Afghanistan, we had the most SIGACs of any fighter in country at the time. So in 2012, we were the hot place. And I guess the aviation guys got a clue of how much killing we were doing with the balloon. So they would be bored up north supporting a mission, and they would check in with me pretty frequently, like, hey, you got any work for us? It got to the point where I would just, Dark Horse 6-4, negative at this time, watching somebody right now, get back with you in a half an hour. You know what I mean? And they would check back in with me in a half an hour, and usually I would steal them to
Can you come out and play?
Yeah. Usually I would steal them to do some kind of strike. And, man, we ended up, I think, not that numbers matter, but it was a really big game changer for the fight, because once the balloon went up, we didn't have a single casualty after that.
Nice.
Yeah. And it was awesome, man. It was just awesome to see the evolution of war and how much difference the technology makes. It was
being able to successfully utilize and implement the technology.
Yeah, and it taught me a lot about myself, man. I don't think I ever really had a lot of confidence in my ability as a leader or as an infantry guy, and then to see this system that I created and see how it's working and saving our guys' lives, I was like, this is awesome. So awesome that I actually never went back to the line. I stayed in the talk. I didn't go back to the line until we got back home from that deployment. Were
you offered the opportunity?
So
while you were deployed?
Sarn Barrera, one of my favorite leaders ever, the one that's now a triple amputee, and I love him to death. I don't know if he knows it, but I still feel responsible. Like I could have done more. I don't know if I've ever told him that. But he was recruiting me hard. He wanted me in his platoon, and I wanted to go to 2nd Platoon. I love that platoon. So our 2nd Platoon, I think the reason I wanted to go there is because they had it the worst. It just, by the luck of the draw, they were the ones that were hammered the most, and they had the most casualties. They were always in the fight for whatever reason. It just worked out that way, and but all the platoon sergeants were fighting over me. So yeah, I did have the opportunity. First Sergeant Rob, I don't think he wanted to let me go because he saw how valuable I was in the talk. I mean, he got to the point where I became the first sergeant while he was off the cop, going out with the guys and actually getting to go out as a first sergeant, which you don't see often. You know what I mean? Because they're busy dealing with stuff, here on the cop. And so it was awesome for me, man. It turned my whole career around. Like I never thought I wanted to be anything more than an E7. First Sergeant Rob inspired me to become an E8. That's what I was eventually going to end up working towards. It just made me better overall. It just re-inspired something in me and just made me want to do it even more. Some other things happen. The civilians that install and maintain and come fix when it breaks the balloon and all of that, they are talking to all of the units that have these things, some special operations groups that want to get these things because they have access to them. I was asked to write a whole write-up for a lot of SF teams, some other secret teams that I don't even know about. Their command would reach out to me and like, hey, can you in detail write what your system looks like and how you're using this and how much of a game changer it was? It was really humbling, man. It was really validating too as a leader, to see man, I created this. And then it was cool too because there's other technologies that we were getting towards the end of the deployment with the balloon. So some technologies where you could use Face ID now. So now I didn't have to guess if I had PID on a guy who I saw 2 days earlier arm that IED. I had a snapshot of his face and it would store that in a computer. And the next time I saw that dude, it would give me on screen a red box around his face saying, this is a known, bad guy. And we got to use the APMI mortar rounds, those GPS-guided mortar rounds. brigade pissed me off with that one because I put together a whole strike plan. I watched this guy for a week arm all of his IEDs on the same route, and I had put together a strike plan so that I knew that we could fire these mortars at a certain time and they would land as he is stepping to arm this
time
last,
on target.
Yeah, this last IED. I learned a lot about how mortars worked from Sergeant Lanning, who's still call him Bestie to this day. He works for Blue Origin. He's an amazing human. I knew more about mortars than his own mortars because I took an interest in it. And to put that whole plan together, Brigade said no because you can't guarantee no CivCast or CDE. And I was like, I can because it's in the middle of an open field and I know exactly what time he's going to be stepping there, but you won't let me do it. All kinds of stuff, man. I really had a blast on that deployment. And the one time I got to go out, I tore my shoulder and kind of put it off. So that was the beginning of the end of my career. Is when we got home, I tore it the rest of the way, had a couple of surgeries, and then entered the med board process, and that would be the end of my career.
How long after July 7th did you guys find out that you had a traitor in your midst?
Oh, a pretty immediate, man. It couldn't have been more than a couple of days because First Sergeant probably saved me from doing something really stupid. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's one of those, it's like an achievement to get to carry a 9mm as an extra guy, right? And because I'm in the talk, right? Ooh. Like I don't need a rifle running around, like let them have a spare rifle or whatever, and I'll just carry a 9mm. That guy had come into our talk, which I was solely against just in general, like no reason any Afghani should ever be in our talk, but those were the rules. And they had called him into the talk. He was in the talk, and it got heated in there. And I pushed his ass up against the mat board that was still in the corner. And I guess my hand was on the pistol, and I was going to put it to his head and pull the trigger because, I mean, you're responsible for a young father, on his first deployment, no longer being here. Sergeant Barrera had, I don't know, 15, 16, 17 years in, and his career is over now. Like, just all the feelings, right? And First Sergeant, I think, saw what I was doing. Well, first of all, I'm a big dude, and I was even bigger then because I was lifting all the time. It's like really all you have to do is eat, lift, and sleep, and then work. And as soon as I put him up against the mat board, they were trying to get me off of him. It stopped me from doing something stupid, but it wasn't long after. And thank God we didn't have any green on blue incidents. But after that, we were on high alert for all that stuff because then all the green on blue stuff in Afghanistan started happening. I think it was either at Taliban or Zangabad. I forget which companies were there. I think it was Seco at Zangabad. They had a green on blue incident in the middle of the night. And Afghani just came in and shot up a tent for no reason or whatever reason.
I lost an old friend in a green on blue.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't experience it, but we were well aware of it, particularly after all that stuff comes to light. You know what I mean? Like, and I forget. I think he was. The Taliban. They do their thing, right? They'll end your entire bloodline if you don't cooperate with them. So, hindsight's 20/20. Can I really blame him, or can I say that I would have done something different and sold out? I don't know. I'd like to think that I wouldn't, but like until you're in that situation, I guess you never know.
It's a tough world over there.
So, and so from the end of July till we left in November, we didn't take another casualty. The balloon was amazing, and then it was time to come home, and came home. And went back to the line and really destroyed my shoulder. Had 2 surgeries, and that was the end. That was the end of my Army career.
Okay. Well, let's take a break, and then we'll come back and we'll wind it down.
Yeah, brother.
So you hurt your shoulder on the one patrol that you did in Afghanistan.
I did more than one, but yeah. Yeah.
So you hurt your shoulder. You sucked it up, you drove through, you redeployed, but now you've hurt it again. Or you continue to make it worse.
Oh, yeah. 100% continue to make it worse. I tore my labrum, which is not fun because it's actually what holds it in place. I didn't know it at the time. And look, man, I think you guys will relate to this. After 4 deployments, you got all kinds of aches and pains, and you just kind of keep going because they don't really get better.
There's not really a choice in the matter.
But like, I mean, as far as like lifting and man, my favorite exercise on the planet to this day is still pull-ups. I love pull-ups. And at the time I weighed 250 pounds and I could do muscle-ups with the best of them. And like, I mean, there were the skinny guys in the company were like, there's no way you're that big and should be able to move like that. I'm sure that contributed to all the issues, right? Of course.
It was probably a lack of clean, dry socks and ibuprofen. That's probably what made it worse.
I forgot to take a knee and face out, right?
Yeah, that's right. Pull security.
But I continued. Look, I came back from Afghanistan, and if I'm being honest, my career through all of my Fort Stewart days, I was a mediocre soldier. I was not a good soldier. I didn't do extra PT. I did the bare minimum to get by. I really just kind of, I don't know, it was what it was. When I got to Fort Lewis and I saw that unit and had the mentorship that I had and really came into my own as a soldier, I doubled down on it. I actually wanted to, because I think the writing was on the wall for me when I came home from that Afghanistan deployment. Things were very clearly slowing down. I knew the op tempo was going to shift to more of a garrison lifestyle. And I'm thinking, like, there's still some things I need to accomplish, Ranger School being one of them. I still wanted to try and, go be somebody special through, selection or, screen for the other one, right? Like, I was getting the emails, to go out and screen. And I was like, this is, I think, something that I'm going to have the time now, right? Because when you deployed every other year, it's leave, training cycle, deployment, leave, training cycle, deployment. Mm-hmm. There's really not time for anything else. You can't train for any school. You're not getting slots for schools. So,
and yet there still seems to be people that find a way to do it.
Yeah, I don't know how.
I don't.
Because I got told no.
I don't either. But there's usually one guy in the unit that seems to make it happen.
I mean, I tried to re-enlist for school slots, and they told me no. Like that's the one surefire way to get what you want is to re-enlist for it. So I was, my mentality after we came home from Afghanistan was like, I'm gonna keep pushing myself hard and training hard, and the shoulder finally went. I was in the gym. It was. I was doing something, and it just completely, I heard it tear the rest of the way. It dislocated itself. Mm-hmm. I was like, that hurt real bad. I used my other arm to pick the weight up and put it back on the rack. And I went into the locker room and I looked in the mirror and you could just see my shoulders out of place. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing here, but like, that's not right. I got to get it back in there. So I got it back in there thinking like, oh, I'm going to be fine. Right. I put it off for like, I think we were on like a 4-day weekend or something. And I show up like Tuesday morning back to work and I can't really do anything with my left arm. Like I can't, like I'm in front of the formation giving the morning report and I can't go to parade rest because I can't put my arm behind my back. And first sergeant, he's on his way out. We're getting a new first sergeant. And the new first sergeant's an awesome dude too. And he's like, Sergeant Peters, what is wrong with you? I was like, what are you talking about, first sergeant? Nothing's wrong with me. He's like, I saw that. Like, he's like, go see Captain Barker over at the aid station. I was like, roger that. So I walk into Captain Barker's office, and I didn't have to go to sick call. I had a relationship with the guy. He wasn't busy. It was after sick call hours, so I just knocked on his door. I was like, hey, sir, you got a minute? He's like, yeah, it's good to see you.
Hey, sir, got a minute.
Yeah. He's good to see you, sir. It's good to see you, too. He was our doc on the COP in Afghanistan, too. Awesome dude. Really cool story. I'd like to find him. I think you guys should talk to him because he was an enlisted dude, then went and flew Apaches. Then when he ranked out of that, he became a PA and then was moonlighting as a doctor outside.
So he has an interesting story arc, is what you're saying?
Yeah, he does. Really cool. So always loved our conversations. And I walked into his office and I was like, sir, I got a problem. First sergeant sent me over here. He's like, oh, boy. I was like, I think I screwed up. He's like, what do you think you screwed up? Well, my shoulder's not right. I was like, he's like, what do you mean it's not right? I was like, I can't lift my arm. I can't put it behind my back. He's like, oh, that's not good. He, on the spot, ordered an MRI with contrast. So I think I waited a week for that. And come to find out, I had torn 60% of the labrum, just shredded it completely.
I've had the same procedure that you're about to describe, so I know exactly what you're talking
It's
about.
miserable. It is. I didn't heed any of the warnings. So MRI comes back. Captain Barker's like, you're dude. Like that's really what he told me. He's like,
It's very scientific.
he's like, this is not going to be a fun process. It's going to suck. Shoulder surgery is one of the worst that you can have.
Is
Labor.
it the SLAP, the SLAP?
I don't know.
I think that's what they call the procedure. But
Yeah, I can't remember. I know that. So 60% of my labrums just shredded. I ended up tearing the bicep tendon off there too, so that has to get put back in place. And so I'm getting ready for the surgery and all of that. And, it's going to be like, I can't remember, like 8 or 9 months recovery time. Sounds about right. You had the same one, so I can't remember. And I'm like, okay, well, that just sets everything back, right? Like, what am I going to do for the next 9 months? Just focus on healing. Thank God the op tempo was slower. We don't have a deployment looming or whatever. So I have the surgery, and I didn't heed any of the warnings. They're all trying to tell me that, like, I don't want painkillers because I watched so many of my buddies go down that rabbit hole.
Oh, yeah.
So I refused the painkillers.
Yep.
And man, I should have taken those painkillers because I came home from surgery that night. I went to bed and just they gave me this really cool machine that like pumps ice water.
Yep.
I forget, it's a Game Ready, I think is what they call it. It ended up being a lifesaver. Also uses pressure too, so compression.
it's the combination of the both, though. You
Yeah.
can't just do one.
Yeah, and I love that machine, but my girlfriend at the time had got it all set up because I'm not doing anything with that, right?
Uh-huh.
Like, and I lay in bed and I'm watching TV, and she turns off the light because she's gonna go to sleep, and I'm just kind of in my own little world because I just took an anesthesia nap for like 8 hours or whatever. And it's like when she flipped the light switch off, so did the light switch on the nerve block. It went off, and all I can remember is rubbing my feet on the blanket because that's the only thing that would soothe me and help take my mind off the pain. And I was begging for painkillers, and can't smoke weed, can't, like, what, ibuprofen ain't gonna cut it here, and I don't have any painkillers, so I had to gut it out for a while. And I go through that. I get healed in 7, 8, 9 months, whatever it is, and I get a platoon. I actually get a platoon. I get choice of platoon, just like First and Rob had promised me, and I take the platoon. We do the draft, recruit whomever we're going to recruit or whatever, and we're doing just little competitive stuff in the cages that you always do. We had a pull-up bar back there, and I had this mouthy private who I still mentor to this day. I love him to death. Briar Daniels, if you're listening to this, I love you, brother, and I'm always here for you. He was a strong private for sure. He came from Lurs unit, and I guess they shut down the Lurs unit out there.
They're gone.
So he ended up coming back to the regular line, and he was miserable because things are so different. And so he reminded me a lot of me when I was a private. I was a mouthy private. I was a strong private. I was always doing push-ups because I just don't tolerate bullshit. Just don't do that to me. He was largely the same way, and nobody wanted him, and I picked him for my platoon because I saw something in him, and I'm glad I did because he's about to be an E8 now, and he's out on the trail doing his little time out there. He actually came here. He was at Bragg, got in trouble like I told him he was going to. Didn't listen to me, but he challenged me to some like pull-ups, and at the time, man, I still love pull-ups to this day. Before I tore my shoulder, I could do, I don't even know, just crank them out. I loved pull-ups, and me being an old guy, I'm like, I'm not going to let the young guy get the best of me, so I hop on the pull-up bar, and I get to like 5 or 6, and the next one, I go up, and I hear the same noise again.
Pop.
Yep. So I drive myself right over to the hospital.
Straight to Madigan.
I find Dr. Grassball because he's not hard to find, and I walk into his office, and he's like, "You didn't." I said, "I did." And he's like, "All right, well, here's go get the MRI." So I have a second surgery to put it all back together, and I come out of that surgery, and he tells me, he's like, "Look, man, it's 50-50 right now. I don't know if what I did is actually going to fix you. I've got, the way they do it is there's a bunch of anchors in one side, and they use this I don't know, rope basically is what it looks like to me to pull this all tight. He's like, you don't have enough labrum left for me to put anything into. So
They describe it's like a golf tee, and if the part that holds the ball on wears down enough, like there's nothing to hold it on.
I have the
I was
pictures.
in the same, yeah.
I know from the first surgery, he told me he like got in there with the camera and he was like, I had to suction out all the fragments of your labrum because I couldn't see what I was doing. So long story short, I have like nothing left of the labrum. He's pulled it as tight as he could. He's like, it is very important that you follow all of my directions. I'm putting this in your file, in your notes for all the PTs, everybody that you're going to see after the surgery. Your arm is not to come out of this sling for like 12 weeks, like 4 months. It's not supposed to come out of the sling. You're not supposed to move it. Don't do all the stuff that you did the first time where you bend over and you gravity hang it to like, do the thing. Like physical therapy for you is the only time your arm will come out of that sling, and they will not do X, Y, Z. Like there's a whole long list of rules. So I was like, okay, roger that. Like I can follow instructions. I'm really good at that. Like if this is what's going to save my career and whatnot, I'll do whatever. So I go back 10 days later to have the stitches taken out, and there's a major who wants to see me as part of, like, they take the stitches out, they do like a little follow-up, update your chart, and then send you on your way. Well, what does he do? He takes my arm out of the sling. He grabs my arm and he pulls down on it. And I immediately, I could feel everything that he had done just come undone. And I don't know if I was in tears from the pain or if I was in tears because subconsciously I realized what had just happened.
It's over.
Or both. But I was walking down the hallway and Dr. Grassball walked by me and he's like, you don't look so good. He pulled me into one of the empty like exam rooms and said, talk to me, what's going on? I said, sir, I followed your instructions for the last 10 days because I saw how serious you were. I knew what the stakes were. I was like, I'm just not sure why that major in there just yanked on my friggin' arm and took it out of the sling. He said, excuse me, what just happened? He's like, I'll be right back. And he goes back to that room. We couldn't have been 30 feet away from where I was just at, and I could hear him screaming at that major. I'm pretty sure that major got fired immediately. Dr. Grassball comes back into the exam room, and he's like, Sergeant Peters, I'm sorry, man. He's like, you're done. Like, this is it. No more. You cannot be an infantryman anymore.
It's over.
I cannot fix what has been done. And he's like, I'm going to start the med board. And I was like, you mean like get out? Like that's what you're saying? Like I'm done like being a soldier? He's like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's like, we might be able to MMRB you and change your career. I said, sir, I'm about to be an E7. Like I can't. What kind of leader is going to go to a new MOS, supposed to be the subject matter expert and the senior leader, and like my experience as an infantry guy. Like I got 4 deployments as an infantry guy. I can't go to some other MOS and be an effective leader. And so hindsight's 2020, I probably should have done that because I'd probably still be in. But I didn't. I chose to go through the med board, and I don't know, somewhere between 18 and 24 months later, I was medically retired. That ended my career.
After 13 years?
12, it works out to like 12-8, I think, 12 years, 8 months, so just round it up.
And you had been ready at that point? Well, once you got to...
I was a career guy.
Yeah.
I was a career guy after my first reenlistment. I knew that I was going to stay for 20, actually 22, because I had heard about the money thing that you can do at like 15 or whatever, and then you extend your retirement. I don't know if it's real or not, but...
It is. The 30 grand or
something like that, and it's...
Yeah, and then
you owe them 2 more years.
Well...
To get the actual percentage that you would have got at 20.
It's a bit more than that, but yeah. Yeah, I know. It is a real thing. Yes.
But yeah, I knew that after my first reenlistment, because like I said, I signed the 6-year contract for no bonus. I had no bonus when I entered. I got a small bonus my second reenlistment. I sold leave my third reenlistment. and still wasn't in def. I actually did it right. I re-enlisted in Afghanistan also. So I would have had one more re-enlistment.
Did you get a bonus that time?
I did not. No, I actually sold leave. That was my bonus. Because I had so much leave from all the deployments. Yeah. It just stacked up. The Army did this weird thing where they didn't, like, your leave would roll over. Yeah. I had so much. I had like 180 days of leave. Yeah. A ridiculous amount of leave. So I sold as much as I could and left enough for me to sell again when I got out. Yeah. That was it, man. A major pulled on my arm and ended my career. And I was pretty bitter about it for a long time.
Yeah. So it was about 18 months or so after that to go through the...
Yeah, man, it was.
They've sped that up. That med board process is so much faster now.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, but in 2015, I mean, things were much different back then. I mean, we had a warrior transition unit for all the hurt guys to get them off the MTO so that they could just go to medical appointments so that they could get out. They moved all the med, like I started med board in one place on the back 40 of Fort Lewis where my Pueblo and all that was, and then it ended up being in trailers close to the front gate towards the end of it. It was a lot, man. And 6 of those months, my orders had already been cut. And they lost that somewhere in the digital space. Like I kept calling my Pueblo. I was blessed in the med board process. I got an amazing VA rep. I got an amazing Pueblo. Everything was really smooth. It was just it was truly a waiting game for me because my orders had gotten lost in digital land. Nobody knew where they were. I had an amazing lawyer who, for that foot surgery that I had, they tried to not give me a rating at all, and she went through and she was like, the exact same surgery that's stated in your medical records is the exact same wording that they use here to rate you at X%. Like, this is your appeal. This puts you over the retirement threshold. You're going to get 100% total and permanent and be medically retired. And it was a seamless process other than them losing my orders. And then when I finally did get my orders, I had like 3 days to get out of the Army. Because you can't clear, because you can't put in a leave form for terminal leave. So I ended up losing like 45 days of leave. I only had 30 I could sell back. I didn't take any terminal leave. I had no terminal leave whatsoever because, and I probably am going to get in trouble for saying this, I forged my own leave document because they were on a 4-day weekend and I need the brigade commander's signature. So I just took my old leave form and put the signature block and just traced his signature on it so I could get out of the damn Army.
Would you believe me if I told you were not the first guest we've had that said the exact same thing?
I'm sure. I've talked to my own, and it's probably a lot more common because it was just a messed up process back then, and I went to the resume class for TAP. Everything else was weak online. Watch these videos. Well, of course I'm not going to watch those videos. I'm going to turn them on 2x speed, and I'm going to go do something else for 15 minutes while I work through this video, quote unquote, so you can check a block. I am proud to say that I did clear CIF first shot.
Wow.
Me too, man. Me too.
I was pretty impressed with myself.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
It is a rarity.
It is a rarity.
I was the same. I remember sitting in my car afterwards holding that stamped paper in my hand, just like, I'm basically retired now. I mean, for all intents and purposes.
Did you have the same thing that I did too? I was like, when I got done at CIF and I'm holding that paper with the stamp on it, I'm like, that's not as hard as everybody else made it sound like it was going to be.
I cleared everything except for one item because I wanted to keep it.
What was it?
My fleece.
Oh, I should have kept mine.
My original black Polar Tech fleece.
That's the only one that matters.
The very first issue.
Yep.
I wanted to keep it. And so I walked out of there with the statement of charges. And I was fine with it.
Yeah, of course.
And I still have it.
Yeah. I think really what helped me clear CIF is just having all those deployment gear was just thrown at us. Yep. Thrown at us. And so like so much of like there was a lot of stuff I didn't have that they had asked for, like the early Camelback brand Camelback. And I'm like, they had systems to write all that stuff off for a lot of us guys that had deployed so much because I think one of the things they wanted was like the nape pad for the helmet.
The 7-8 different variations of elbow and knee pads.
Yeah, all that stuff.
You had to like match them up.
Like some old LCE LBV equipment. I'm like, I haven't seen that since 2004. What are you guys even talking about? They're like,
you know why they collect that stuff up? Because we sell it to foreign armies.
Well,
it's foreign military sales.
They wrote it off for me, thank God. Okay. So I didn't have to go play the Army surplus game and try and hunt the stuff down. But in the meantime, that 18 months, I got the sweetest gig in the Army, which is range control. I got to go work range control, which was...
How many keys did you have?
I didn't have any keys.
Ooh. That's the true mark of an expert range control is a large wire circle loop.
I didn't have any
with
keys.
Nothing but keys on there. And you can hear them coming a mile away.
I didn't have any keys, but I had a lot. It was probably the worst thing that could have happened for me at the time because I was in charge of the entire... all of us, I think it was like 30 of us over there. We split into 2 shifts. So it was 3 days on, 2 days off, 1 week, and then 2 days on, 3 days off. You just kind of flop back and forth. And Mr. Bowman was a civilian over there who knew 1st Sergeant Rob. They were in Ranger Battalion together. So when I went over there, 1st Sergeant Rob put in a good word for me. He put me in charge of the whole thing. But it exacerbated my drinking. I mean, I was off the rails. I was showing up definitely drunk on duty. My schedule, if I worked, I would stop drinking at 3 a.m. when the bars closed. I would go home and pass out. If I didn't work, I would drink till I passed out in my lawn chair smoking a cigarette on my balcony. Like I was up to like 2 gallons of whiskey a week, just destroying myself. I was a miserable human because my career was ending. And I didn't do any of the things that I now preach to guys and gals getting out. Like I didn't know what I was going to do when I got out. I didn't know at all. I had no aspirations for college to use the GI Bill. I had no job prospects. I wasn't networking with anybody. I was drinking my face off.
Yeah. After your first shoulder surgery, you didn't get any painkillers. Did you get them the next time?
I've had 4 surgeries in the last 3 years. So 2 bicep tendon surgeries, back surgery, and then last year I had a total labrum replacement in my right hip. And still no pain. I mean, that's really not true because cannabis is wonderful, wonderful.
Well, the reason I ask is because you said that your drinking was out of control, and I was wondering if then you were also mixing in painkillers.
Look, man, I've always been kind of a big sissy when it comes to drugs, if you will. I was a dare kid. I bought into that stuff hook, line, and sinker. You know, even when I joined the military, the only thing I'd ever done, and to this day, with the exception of ayahuasca, the only drug I've ever done is weed. I don't mess around with the other stuff. But I just ramped up the amount of alcohol, really, is what it was. And I just had enough foresight to see my mentors go down the painkiller rabbit hole, which turned into heroin, which turned into me driving them to rehab, which turned into them checking themselves out of rehab and living on the street for a while, which ended up me finding him hanging from his balcony and having to cut him down and take him to the hospital. Then we didn't talk for 2 years until he got better through plant medicine himself, and then called me and apologized to me and thanked me for being there. You know, I've experienced a lot of that stuff, man. I think it's a large part of why I do what I do now, but I was always cognizant of that. It ruins people. Opiates ruin people. The best people in the world fall victim to opiates. There's a really good book that you should read called, what's it called? It's about the Sackler family and that whole rabbit hole, and Empire of Pain is what it's called. And I was always aware of that because I saw it happen in real time to people I loved and respected.
So you said earlier on that when you were finally done, you still had no idea what you were going to do. How long after separation did things start to come together?
I mean, Real answer, 8.5 years. I think I don't know what to label it. I don't even know what I call it because I do work in this space now, but the false transition side of it, 4 months, because I learned, and this comes full circle, that I could fly as a civilian. So as soon as I found out that I could get a medical and fly as a civilian, I quit drinking. I did everything. I paid like $10,000 or $12,000 to go through all the red tape that the FAA wanted from a combat veteran, the neuropsych appointments and evaluations, seeing a psychologist once a quarter for 4 years, all the correspondence back and forth with the FAA. I went through that whole process to get a medical, to go to flight school, and I was almost ready to give up the day the letter saying, here's your conditional medical, these are the rules you have to follow to hold this. I went that same day to the flight school and enrolled and started flight school. So it was about 4 months for me to do the false transition, is what I like to call it, because it's TAP's roadmap, right? Use your GI Bill, go to school, get the degrees. You're a veteran. Everybody's going to want to hire you. Congratulations. You'll make 6 figures. You're successful. I bought into that hook, line, and sinker. And what better way to make 6 figures than as a pilot? Everybody knows pilots gets paid lots of money. So I did. I went to flight school. I started flight school in April of 2016. I was medically retired in November of 2015. So I now had kind of a false mission, right? Like my mission is to become a pilot and get the AAST in professional pilot from Clover Park. So I did that. 2 years later, I have a commercial license. I actually got my commercial license in about 18 months, which is moving. I burnt myself out, though. I didn't know what I didn't know about aviation. I thought you're going to get in an airplane, they're going to teach you how to take off and land and fly long distances, point A to point B, because that's what we do with airplanes.
There's more to it than that?
Yeah, there's a lot more to it than that. It's all about safety and risk management and, aeronautical decision making. And you need 250 hours to become a commercial pilot. You'll spend about 220 of those turning circles in the sky in a box called the practice area, doing slow flight, stalls, lazy eights, chandelles, steep turns, slow flight. And that's what you do for 220 hours. And it's miserable because it's hot. You're in a little plane. I'm a big guy. And it's boring, dude. It's so boring. It's not at all. It takes all the joy out of flying. And so I had the opportunity to use Voc Rehab, and with what I wanted to do in aviation, it would have made me more competitive to have a bachelor's degree, because I didn't just want to go to, the Deltas and the SkyWest and all that, fly, just be a glorified bus driver. I wanted to fly for billionaires and, be dual certified fixed wing and rotary wing, so I can fly them long distance to their yacht and then fly them from wherever we land to their yacht that's parked out in, the Gulf somewhere or whatever. And I was inspired by an instructor I had in instruments. He flew for Paul Allen, and he said it was the best job he ever had in his entire life because that guy took care of him. If he was staying in a 5-star hotel, so was his pilot. If they were eating at a Michelin star restaurant, so was his pilot, right? Like, he was invited to bring his family along to the most exotic places in the world by Paul Allen because he was his pilot. And I know that it's probably not always like that with rich folks, but I was willing to take the chance. Also, for me, when you fly like that, it's a lot more responsibility because you have to stock the airplane with whatever food the customer wants. You plan the route. You do your fuel calculations. It's all on you. You do it for the airlines. You literally show up, walk around the plane, punch some numbers into the ACARs, and you're off. Like, you get up to whatever off the end of the runway, you put the yaw dampener on, engage the autopilot, and you don't touch it again until it's time to land. It's just a big difference, and I like responsibility, I guess. I think that it brings the best of me out. It's where I thrive, and so that's what I wanted to do. However, I when I was getting my bachelor's degree, I started that in 2018, right after I finished commercial. I started at Clover Park in an operations management bachelor's degree program. Like, I piloted that for them, and they screwed me up so bad that they actually gave me my GI Bill back because they put me in the capstone classes for the bachelor's degree instead of, the first classes that I was supposed to be in. So I was completely lost, and I was like, I'm done with you guys. One of my instructors was going to the Evergreen State College, and he's like, man, I know you heard a lot of bad things about this, but you should come check this school out. It's really awesome. So I did. I went over to Evergreen, and I signed up that day, and I finished my bachelor's degree at Evergreen. The caveat to that is I graduated in 2020, and we all know what happened in 2020. So
timing.
And I know you know about Washington. They're not the friendliest state with rules. And so, it's long story short, I couldn't focus on the next level of aviation progression with becoming a CFI and instructing while working on my bachelor's degree. I just didn't have the mental capacity to do it, because as an instructor, you have to have an instructional level knowledge of aviation and all the systems of the aircraft, the maneuvers and aerodynamics, and it was just too much while studying, to get the bachelor's degree. So I was out of my own pocket, so I would also have to have a job to pay for flight school to finish CFI, which is somewhere in the neighborhood of $10,000 or $15,000. And it just wasn't feasible for me. So I chose to focus on the bachelor's degree because I knew that would help me get to where I wanted to be with aviation. Then COVID happens. Washington basically shut down flight schools for 3 years. So I voc rehab. Some of the requirements while you're on voc rehab, or you have to apply to jobs and you can't turn down interviews, but they give you like extra BAH for several months after you graduate. And I did that, and that enter kind of the entrepreneurship phase of Adam Peters, because I got sold on selling final expense insurance to seniors, and I moved all the way across the country to do it, and learned the hard way that is a soul-sucking, miserable job that you don't want to do. I was a 1099 contractor, so it would have been my own business, my own book of business, would have been able to hire people under me to sell, take a percentage of their commissions. But what they don't tell you is, one, how to sell, two, how to sell an intangible product to poor people, and three, how to massage a book of business of people who don't have money to keep stealing money out of their Social Security checks. And I just couldn't do it, man. I was good at it. I did sell a lot. I made quite a bit of money, quote unquote, made. All your commission checks in the insurance industry are a 9-month advance. So if you have a $100 premium and you get 80% of that, you'll get a $750 check the second, they process that. If they cancel their policy after the first month, you owe them 8 months back, right? Mm-hmm. So it's hard to make money if people don't have money to pay their premiums. And nobody taught me anything. So I left that, went, because I had the licenses and I had paid for them, and insurance is lucrative. I got a work from home selling health insurance job, and that was fine, not nearly as lucrative as life insurance. And it's a lot of cold calling, which I enjoy now. I didn't at the time, but I know the law of large numbers now, and I know how to play the game. Cold calling can be fun if you make it fun, particularly if you just understand it takes 100 no's to get one yes, and the faster you get to those 100 no's is the faster you get to the yes. But they turned my lead money off for 10 days in a row, and if you don't have lead money to buy leads, then you can't keep your sales cycle going. So it just chopped my income off. I got fed up with it because it kept telling me, oh, we're getting it fixed. And so on day 10, I printed out hard copies of my resume, and I drove around to all the big box property and casualty insurance stores, Allstate, State Farm, Progressive. I think there was one Geico office in Lexington. This was in Columbia, South Carolina. I walked away that day with like 4 job offers because I took initiative to walk into these offices. Several of them were like, I've been doing this for 20 years, and I've never had somebody that's licensed walk into my office and ask for a job. I'll hire you on the spot. So I give that advice to veterans to this day, because it's not common for people to just go introduce themselves, tell them who you are, and say, hey, I'd like to work here. I chose to go to an Allstate agency, which they had promised me a lot of things I was interested in, like getting a Series 6, 63, and 7 license and really learning how money works. However, the owner of that agency did not make good on any of that stuff.
There's like franchises, right?
Yeah, so kind of. I'm not really sure how those work, and each one's very different. Yeah. So this Allstate, he had to make certain sales numbers or else Allstate corporate can come in and kick him out and he loses his investment and everything in it. I don't know how it all works now. I don't even know if he still has the agency, but long story short, they promised me a lot of things. The old owner that he had bought it from had agreed to stay on for a year. She was amazing and she saw the potential in me, but he ended up firing her like 3 months into their year-long agreement because he just thought he knew better. This is a woman who had 45 years building this agency. And so, long story short, I got stiffed on some commissions, and on Thanksgiving, the day before Thanksgiving, that whole week, he left me in the office by myself. Like, he just like, I'm going on vacation, bye, have a good Thanksgiving. Like, he would never talk to his book of business. I was the only agent in the office selling anything. The only one held to any kind of standard. I was responsible for hitting all the numbers, and I was getting none of the commission for it because of the way his commissions were structured. It's just not a good. So I didn't even give him the courtesy of telling him I was leaving. I just wrote my letter of resignation and gave him and put my key in the envelope and left it on his desk for him to find out whenever the hell he came back.
Whenever he comes back.
Yeah. Honestly, I was just so fed up with it. It was very professional. I think I worded it like I really appreciate the opportunity, but this is not the best fit for me, and I need to move on to other things. And that's when I resigned myself to going back to flight school to finish CFI and go kind of bite the bullet and go back into aviation. And so my wife at the time, she stuck it out with me for 18 months in South Carolina. I met her in Washington, and she agreed to move across the country with me and gave me a shot. I told her I manned up and said, look, I failed at this. Like, I didn't make good on what we had talked about, and it's your turn to choose where we want to go. My dad moved to Florida 30 years ago. My sister spent most of her career in either Florida or Hawaii in the Air Force. So I had family down there, and while we were living in South Carolina, I had been visiting, and my ex-wife my wife at the time, now ex-wife, she's like, I think I want to go live in Florida. And I was like, sweet, let's do that, because I love Florida. Cocoa Beach is my favorite place in the world. It's my happy place. If I'm having a bad day, I just cross the causeway, touch some sand, get in the surf, and everything melts away. I'm good to go. And it's warm. I don't do cold anymore. My body's too broken for that. I mentioned it to you when I got here, Dan. My body just hurts because it's cold. Mm-hmm. So I found a flight school, FIT. We moved to Cocoa first, rented a house for my sister for a little bit. Not a good place to live, wouldn't recommend it. And I went back to flight school. But that's not the end of the story. I was a week away from taking the check ride to be a CFI, and I tore my bicep tendon.
Same arm?
Yeah.
Same arm. Different spot down at the elbow this time. And that was rough because that coincided with I needed to get some numbers from the FAA, and they don't have them on the website. I had to write them a formal letter, print it off, sign it, put it in an envelope with a check for $2, and wait 4 to 6 months for them to send me the numbers that I needed to take this check ride. So I got ahead of myself. That happened first. So while I was waiting for the 4 to 6 months for them to send the numbers, I picked up a job in the sod farms in Vieira, mowing grass. It was awesome. Best job I've ever had in my entire life. That is the truth. I showed up at 7 a.m, got to listen to podcasts and books for 10 hours a day and make like $22 an hour. It's like $1,000 a week after tax. No responsibility, nobody breathing down my neck. Just get on a lawnmower. Here's your assignment. This is what you're doing all day. Cut this grass, listen to your books, listen to music, whatever you're going to do. Take your mandated breaks and lunch, fill out this paperwork at the end of the day, park the lawnmower back here, go home. I was like, this is awesome. I'm outside. I'm left alone. So I was doing that, and I found the Sean Ryan show, and I think we actually talked about this on my podcast. And I was in a pretty bad way, particularly after I tore my bicep tendon, because I tore that like 3 days after I got the numbers from the FAA, and like 4 days before I was going to go back and actually continue on the path that I was on. So I was in a really dark place, and I remembered, I had a Harley at the time. I had a 2012 Road Glide, and that's what I'd ride back and forth to work. And I just remember thinking, like, all this bullshit ends if I run this thing into a tree at 120 miles an hour. It just all ends. Like, all this pain, all this crap I've been dealing with all these years after being out of the military, all the setbacks, all these feelings of not belonging, all these feelings of not fitting in, this loss of, it all ends if I end it. And so I heard Sean Ryan's episode with one of the first guys who went to Mexico to do the Ibogaine 5-MeO DMT experience. And then later on at home, as he released it, his wife took over his chair and interviewed him to talk about his plant medicine experience. And it was like a wake-up call for me. It was like, because like I said, I knew the pills from the VA weren't the route that I should go. I have enough friends, as I'm sure you guys do, that they're not who you know them as because they're on these pills. In fact, I could pull up a Facebook post of a chaplain that I had who made a post. He's like, I just want to feel something again, but I'm on so many SSRIs, I don't know who I am anymore. Like, just as shells of their former selves. I knew that wasn't an option for me. So I was like, let me open my mind to plant medicine. And this is where it got worse before it got better, because I didn't have a lot of money, and I damn sure didn't have enough money to pay for a retreat, for a week in a foreign country with a medicine that's strange. So I started looking into all these veterans organizations that sponsor veterans to go do this. The same one that Sean Ryan used, some of the other ones that are out there. And I really quickly found out that those all cater to special operations, and they want nothing to do with conventional forces. And that's true across the board with many VSOs. And so it was just super defeating. And by the grace of God, I got picked up by Heroic Hearts Project. So July 2nd through the 7th of 2023 is when my life changed. And I got to go to Peru, and I got to go to Tarapoto, Peru, in the Amazon rainforest, the high jungle, and have a transformational week with ayahuasca. And man, it's the reason I'm sitting here today having this conversation with you. It's the reason I have all the things that I have with my brand and my podcast, my AI consulting business, and a partnership with a plant medicine retreat in Peru. It was the catalyst for becoming this version of myself and doing all the work that I do now. And it let me let go of kind of whatever the game plan that society's box, like having to fit into society's box. It's like, no, I can follow my own intuition and my own gut and the things that make me happy and have a joyful life. It allowed me to separate myself from this notion that we need money. And yes, we need money, but we don't need nearly as much as we think. And it allowed me to look at my life and like, where am I spending money and on what things that I can sacrifice to be able to live this life that I live now. And I don't know, man, it just inspired me to want to help give that to other people. Like, so many things are hidden from us. Meditation, breath work, yoga, grounding practices, gratitude practices, all of these things are scientifically proven to rewire our brains and make us better, yet nobody talks about them. They just want to throw pills at you. And they want to tell you that you need to go and talk to this psychiatrist or this psychologist. And it's like, man, you can fix a lot of this if you just journal, if you just sit with your thoughts, if you allow yourself to feel and cry and be angry and let it out. And if your feet touch grass, if you exercise, oh my God, imagine that. Like, what's the first thing we abandon when we get out? PT. Nobody wants to do PT because you're forced to do it for your whole career. And you get fat and you gain a bunch of weight, and then you're even more miserable and depressed. And it's funny, like, now I'm living in a damn van right now by choice.
A van down by the river?
Yeah. And I still find a way to get in an exorbitant amount of exercise every single day because it's that important to my mental health. And
we should clarify this. You're not living in some rundown,
no.
no, old school bus type van. You actually are like, it's the van life.
It is the van life.
But yeah.
It's very new.
It's
a week old for me, but it's definitely very much a direction that I really want to go, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's a door that's open for me, And I think that's like the biggest thing that I learned with the ayahuasca experience is, I mean, there's a lot of big things: how to love and respect myself, learn about all the gratitude stuff, belief in a higher power for sure. No question in my mind that God is real and He exists, and that I just had to come to that through the plant or whatever. But just being able to live my life in a manner that makes me feel good on the inside, like not what everybody else thinks that I should be doing. And it taught me how to explore opportunities and find the value in exploring those opportunities as they come along, instead of thinking about it like you're wasting time or you're setting yourself back. I don't think anything about what I'm doing in my life right now is setting me back. I think it's just extreme growth. And so I get to explore so many different opportunities. If a door opens over there in the corner and it looks cool to me and I think I can learn something valuable, I'll go explore it for a little bit. So that's what I'm doing with the van thing right now. I have, we've talked about it off camera. I want to take the podcast on the road and do more of this format. I think I'm going to turn into a media company. I'm not going to talk about that project that we've talked about yet. But like, there's just a lot of things that I now get to do that I never thought I would ever be doing, man. Like a poor kid from Indiana, like what? Like sitting here in Fayetteville, North Carolina with two guys I've never met in person, just had you guys on my show and you invite me to your house to record. Like, this is awesome, dude. It's so awesome.
It is fun.
It is. This is, and you know this, the talking is the fun part.
It's so much fun, dude.
It's all the other stuff. It's work.
Look, I'm not sitting here saying to anybody that the lifestyle that I live doesn't come with its own amount of work. Look, I hate podcast post-production with a fiery passion of 1,000,001 suns. I hate it. But it is a grind. Podcasting is a grind. AI consulting is a grind. Recruiting people to come to a plant medicine retreat is probably the biggest grind because it's taboo and unfamiliar, but I love it, man, and I get to give back. I get to serve, again, something bigger than myself, and I think that's really the key of all of it, and I think it's the one thing, whether we realize it or not, about ourselves as members of the military, we all joined to serve something bigger than ourselves, and I think we tell ourselves a lot of story. For me, it was travel. For some people, it's college money. Some people, it's adventure. Some people, they don't have a choice. I think it all comes down to serving something bigger than yourself at the end of the day. Yeah. And I think that's why we struggle so much, is because when you lose that, that driving force that is serving something bigger than yourself, like your country or your state, if you're in the National Guard or whatever, I think when you lose that, you kind of just like left standing there with your dick in your hand, like, what now? Yeah. Like, what do I do?
You lose that fraternity.
Yeah.
If you could go back to 17-year-old you in high school and you're getting rejected from all the different recruiting tables, if you could go back to them, would you do it all again? Knowing that ahead of you is a lot of suffering, a lot of heartache, a lot of loss, but also there's going to be some successes and triumphs along the way. Even though your career was going to end not in the way you had planned or thought about it or designed, if you could go back to that 17-year-old you, would you do it all again?
1,000%. Without hesitation, I wouldn't change a single thing. This is cliche as hell, and I don't care. I really, really buy into things happen for me, not to me. And this version of me would not exist had it not unfolded the way that it unfolded. And I'll even take this a level deeper. It's God's plan for me, man. You won't convince me otherwise. I had to go through all of that to get to here. Period. End of story. And it doesn't turn out this way if I don't go through all of that way.
Of course. Yeah.
And I really believe that. And I could be wrong. And, I'll find out someday, maybe, I guess. But I genuinely, I feel that in my bones. Like, I just know that. Like, without those experiences, trials, and tribulations, I'm not sitting in this chair on the Tracer Burnout podcast having a 3-hour, 4-hour conversation with you guys. Not happening.
Well, this has been awesome, dude. If people want to, tune into your show, if they're looking for AI consulting work, if they're looking for the plant-based medicine retreat, how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, man. So the easiest way to get a hold of me is DM me on LinkedIn. That's my main social media platform. In fact, it's probably really, quote unquote, the only one that I use. My email is thestrategicveteran@gmail.com. I have a website, thestrategicveteran.com. For AI consulting, I don't market. It's all word of mouth. I've built a reputation in helping people, and I've demonstrated my knowledge in that. So I'm not trying to get uber rich doing it. I'm just trying to have enough to facilitate all the things that I want to do. So if you want AI consulting, if you want to know about AI, DM me on LinkedIn, email me. If you want to know about the plants, amakaya.org, AMAKAYA. Go check it out. All the information that you could possibly need is on the website. And that's by design because we are really adamant that we protect your journey as much as possible. So we're not going to give too much away that's going to really drive you into expectations versus intentions, and that's a hard line in the sand for us. So again, if you want to know more about plant medicine, read the website. If that's not enough for you, feel free to DM me, get on my calendar, and look, I answer every single one of my DMs. I don't have a VA. I will answer your email. It'll probably be slower than a DM. I'll even have a phone call with you. I give my calendar link to anybody who asks for it. I genuinely want to interact with every single person who wants my help. I'm not gatekeeping anything. I will give you the best advice I possibly can. This is my purpose. This is my life's work, and I will do it to the best of my ability till the day I die, probably.
Okay. Well, I have one more question before I turn it over to Roger. With the AI consulting, how does it make you feel knowing that you are making Skynet stronger?
I don't look at it like that, man. Mm-hmm. I see AI as an unfair advantage and a tool right now. I think there's a lot of doomsayers out there, and I
feel that way about pretty much all technology. So
I do, man. I think it's like anything else, man. Politics or, whatever. Things get blown way out of proportion. Now, look, I'm not saying that there's not a lot smarter people out there that have been working in that field for a long time that don't have some valid points. I just don't think it's right around the corner like a lot of people are trying to say. And look, I don't know that I'm actually making Skynet stronger, because what I'm finding in the AI consulting space is my value to business owners who want AI and automation in their business, because I do think that is essential or they're going to get left behind. It's first and foremost education, teaching them how to use the tools to leverage them, but also distinguishing signal from noise. What is signal in the AI space versus what is noise? I'd say 80% of what you're hearing in the AI space is noise right now. It's not signal. Mm-hmm. And so that's all I'm trying to do. I guess if that's contributing to Skynet, then that'll be part of my legacy.
I'll be back.
I'm just going to use the tools that they put in front of me to get ahead and have an unfair advantage, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
I get the final question. Final question. Have you ever sat on a park bench on the Evergreen State University campus and just gawked at people for entertainment?
You already know the answer to that question. Yes. Yes.
Then we are kindred spirits, my friend.
So did you go to Evergreen?
I did not attend, but I lived in Lacey, and yes.
It's really interesting to me that they call the gathering place at the front of the school the Red Square.
It shouldn't be interesting.
It
should be informative.
It stands to reason.
Honestly, man, I really think that's a quality school. I know that sounds really weird. Look, so if anybody cares, Evergreen they're not a traditional college. They don't work on grades. They work on, I think it's 12 credit hours per class or something like that, but they work on evals. You do a self-eval, the teacher does the professor eval, and then you do a joint eval together. And why I think that's so powerful is because you can't cheat. You have to do the work. Because if your eval doesn't line up with the professor's eval, your joint eval, you're not getting full credit. So you have to do the work. I got a quality education there. I actually believe that. I learned a ton. And what I liked about it is it's very much choose your own adventure. It's not take a bunch of gen ed classes that really don't mean anything or apply to what you want to do in life. I knew I wanted to focus on business, and I knew I liked psychology, so that's the only classes I took were business and psychology classes.
That is a far more thoughtful answer than what I was expecting, which is the people are mostly freaks.
Yeah, so that was the hardest part about that college is dealing with the people. And there's a lot of veteran haters at that school.
Yes, there are.
I've already given you my thoughts on people. So,
Dan,
dude, this has been fantastic, man.
Yeah,
Thank
man.
you so much. This
I
has
really
been great.
Appreciate it, dude.
Thank you so much for coming out of your way to be here.
Not out of my way, man. I'm so happy I was invited. I'm sorry it took so long to get up here and make it happen, but I would love to come back. I would love to host you guys when I'm on the road somewhere, whatever. Anytime, man. Thank you so much.
Well, if the van life becomes the van studio life, then you can swing through any time, and we can just go out to the
Right in your
driveway.
front yard. You got this nice studio.
Lawn chairs.
Yeah,
But
definitely do something.
I'm
like that, man.
very grateful for both of you. Thank you so much. Of course.
So, what'd you think?
He's a talker.
He is, and part of that is probably due to him having his own show.
Yeah.
which is great. It's always, I think it makes it easier on us when the guest is informative and willing to expound on things.
Yes.
Especially since we do this off the cuff discussion format style rather than interview with a bunch of pre-formatted questions style.
True.
Some people do.
He said that off camera. He said he addressed and answered some questions from us on things he's not spoken of on other podcasts, to which I say you say that to all podcasters.
Yeah.
So kind of a recurring theme we have on our show is people just opening up
Yeah.
in ways that they haven't necessarily done for others,
Yeah.
whether it be in media or even in their personal life.
Yeah. And it helps get those experiences out there. I mean, you and I started this show for, one set of reasons, and we've expanded on that.
Yeah.
And it's really helped a lot of people get some things off their chest, and the recurring word is catharsis.
The word of the day.
And I'm glad that we could do that. I'm glad that we could finally make this happen, because we've stayed in contact with him for the last couple of years, and it just so happened that it lined up. This trip lined up with his move to the van life.
The van life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
What really stuck out to you from the discussion?
4 long combat deployments, and he ended up doing less than 20 in I think 12 years and change when it was all said.
Well, pretty much 13. Yeah.
4 long combat deployments in that time is a long haul for just deployment.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot, especially as an infantryman. There's lots of talk jobs and stuff you can do where, sure, it's stressful and you're away from home and all the things, but like being a grunt, that's a lot.
Yeah. Some of the things that he talked about brought back a lot of memories for me. A lot of memories for me because I've been in those boots. Some of the leadership challenges that he faced. Mm-hmm. I did not have a battalion commander direct me into a different country that we had no business operating in, though. I've wound up in another country by accident.
As have I.
But then as a young soldier, seeing his first line supervisor, his squad leader anyway, move in the other direction at the sound of the guns. That's got to be formative. I did not have that as a young soldier. as a pretty much a brand new private. I think when he had deployed for that first deployment, he had been at the unit for about a year. So, I mean, he was still maybe a PFC at that point. And then seeing your squad leader, who, if I remember correctly, he did not have the highest opinion of already, head in the opposite direction that he should have been going. Something like that can make you lose confidence in all your leadership.
Right. Yeah, I've been fortunate. I've never experienced shield tossing, not at the personal level like that. I've kind of seen it a little more removed.
I have seen people check out after situations, after the action.
Yes,
I have seen people check out.
Yeah.
Just not want to do it anymore.
Yep. Definitely seen that.
And do everything they can to avoid going out on patrol or leaving the wire, or in some case even pull duty within the wire. I have seen that. I have not seen it during the firefight that I can recall.
Yeah. I imagine it's a lot more rare than you would think.
Yeah, I would hope. I would certainly hope so, but I cannot imagine. I cannot imagine what that does to the confidence in your leadership, the confidence that you as a young soldier have in your leadership.
Well, it's not that he was extricated immediately.
As he should have been.
Yeah.
As he should have been.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Some of the injuries and surgeries that he's gone through, I have gone through the same surgeries that he has. They're never the same, but I mean, the procedures more or less. So I get it.
Yeah. And he's not the first person that we've talked to that has had, I don't want to say botched surgeries, but medical operations not go treated, or medical conditions not be treated as quickly as they should have been, or operations to not go as well as they should have. However, him going in for a checkup and getting his just surgically repaired shoulder pulled right back out by the person conducting the checkup.
That sounds horrible.
That's a new one.
That sounds horrible. Ugh.
And he was during his youth there. I mean, he made it pretty clear he had a pretty feisty temperament.
I'm sure that
it must have been an overwhelming amount of pain to hold himself back,
especially for an officer.
Yeah, I mean, just a major.
I know. Their majors aren't even people. Yeah, really great stuff. And he's very busy in mostly in LinkedIn, but he's a very connected guy and just really genuine guy who wants to help. So if you were having issues with your transition, or you're looking proactively at your transition and just need some mentorship and some guidance and somebody who's been there and done that, and here's another thing. Because I retired about a year and a half ago, the transition space, there is a lot of hucksters out there, man. There are a lot of, it is like a transition industrial complex out there of people, and it's like a house of cards. All these organizations that claim to do all this placement and preparation and interview, and you start scratching at these things, and there's not a whole lot there. Yeah. So there's some good ones too. Please don't get me wrong, but guys like him are going to.
Yeah. He's not selling his services. Just he's available as a resource. If you have questions, comments, concerns, he replies to everything.
Yes, he does.
Every email, every DM on LinkedIn, all that stuff. So
he is genuinely interested in helping people.
He wants to help people.
Yeah.
And that is, I think some of that is born from his experiences.
Yeah. And we want to work with him. again in the future on something. We'll figure out the details later. But
maybe the van life will bring him back through.
maybe. So good stuff. Thanks for coming on the show, Adam. We appreciate you.
It was
brother.
great, man. It was awesome. Now, to the Free Fire area.
Free fire.
It's time to go back in history. The year was 1996. The city of Los Angeles was being terrorized by the arch criminal Simon Phoenix. And the only person that was adequately able to stop Phoenix was the rogue cop, John Spartan. To end their carnage, their demolition of the city of Los Angeles, they were both cryogenically frozen in Dr. Cocteau's new cryogenic rehabilitation facility.
Go on.
Cryogenic freezing is not something new. It's been around for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Celebrities have gotten it done.
Austin Powers had it done.
So did his dad, I think. But it made me think.
Evacuation complete.
It made me think about all the other technologies that we were promised in the past that have yet to be delivered. Is there one specific sort of technological advancement that we were promised decades ago to have in the future that has not yet arrived?
Yeah, that's the easy one that jumps out at me is the whole flying car concept. And I say thank God for that, because we can't even master two-dimensional driving on flat surfaces. Can you imagine driving down Ramsey Street here in Fayetteville with flying cars? It would be kind of like the Fifth Element. Right?
Bruce Willis still had a lot of points left on his license. I don't care what they said.
Multi-pass. Yeah, the flying car, I think that one certainly jumps out at me. I don't think we're ready for it.
I remember watching Back to the Future 2. Right? 2. As a kid. And he had the hover skateboard.
Yeah, that was the second one, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Back to the Future 2. And I remember thinking, man, the year 2000 is going to be amazing. And not to say that the year 2000 wasn't amazing, but we still didn't have hoverboards.
They have those ones that you can go out over the water at the beach. They're hooked on these giant hose-looking things.
Do you remember the movie Sergeant Bilko?
Is that the Steve Martin one?
Steve Martin, Dan Aykroyd, and Phil Hartman. Rest in peace, Phil Hartman.
It's been a long time, but yes.
The hover tank.
Yeah, that's right.
Mm-hmm. That movie came out in like the early 90s.
G.I. Joe had a really cool some kind of hovercraft. I think that's what they called it, the hovercraft.
I think one of the oldest promises, certainly, that we were made, jetpacks.
Like the Rocketeer?
Like the Rocketeer, the early James Bond movies, if you remember, the spoof, Get Smart, Maxwell Smart, like pretty much all of the smart technologies, shoe phones and things like that, Cone of Silence. Jetpacks would be amazing.
I would think if you look at the ones from cartoons and things when we were kids, how did having those jet engines that close to your rear end, have you noticed that nobody ever saw any flaws in the engineering on that?
Arrested Development did an episode with a jetpack that didn't turn out well.
I don't remember, but it's been a while.
We've been promised a lot of tech. The Jetsons, right? The show that cartoon came out in like the 60s.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to take place in like 2010 or something like that.
Yeah.
And nothing.
Sci-fi from the past. It's fun. It's funny when you track down whatever the dates are and those things. Like I think Blade Runner 2 was supposed to have been a few years ago.
Yeah. 2013. I think something like that.
It's hard to remember.
Whatever. Is there a specific technology that you would like to have today? Obviously not the flying cars.
Some kind of teleportation device, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Beam me up, Scotty. I have to imagine that the downsides to that kind of technology are legion.
Yeah. All of your molecules are disassembled and then reassembled somewhere else. Who's to say that you're reassembled the same way? I mean,
Elon Musk,
get
on this.
I'm not talking about coming out with like your arm on your back or something like that, but maybe your personality has changed because a molecule in your brain was switched with another one.
I don't see any downsides on that for you.
No.
No,
I'm pretty much perfect no matter how my molecules are assembled.
That's not at all what I was trying to say.
Well, I know where you were going with it. Ass.
Okay, what about you?
I think obviously jetpacks would be cool, but the pellet food that you could just
put a drop of water on
put a drop of water on it and boom, there's your turkey dinner. Yeah.
I mean, they had that with the MREs back in the 80s and 90s.
Not exactly.
Not so much. Okay.
But yeah. It would make shopping a lot easier and storage a lot easier. Food wouldn't go bad. As long as it tasted the same as if it were fresh, I would be okay with it.
Yeah. I just think we could buy back all that time that we would spend cooking and preparing that food by scrolling our phones and looking at social media.
That's true. Or you could pick up a book.
What?
People? Pick up a book. Read something.
On that cheery note. Thanks for spending the evening with us tonight. We appreciate your time.
Yep.
Including Dan.
I appreciate my time too.
We're on all the social media. Give us a like, share, subscribe.
And remember, your service matters. Get it together, man.
You and your dick jokes. Who's joking?
Okay.
This may take a few takes. So let's just go ahead and launch, man.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Tracer Burnout. I'm Dan, and the one laughing uproariously at his own jokes is Roger. He has a giant imaginary penis growing out of his forehead.
It's not that big.
And it's not that imaginary.